All right, so a little intro, and then I'll intro Jay, and then we'll go to Sensible, and we're good to go. Okay, here we go. Well, good evening and welcome, everybody. It is debate night, and it's a simulcast. We're going out on the Shills channel, and we're going out on Mr. Sensible's channel. It's one of those big battles for the ages, as we've got Flat Earth versus Globe Earth. Where do you fall on it? What are your thoughts? We will get to them as well coming up. But first, let's meet tonight's debaters in our epic battle. And coming back to the Shills Debate Night for a second time, we have aRe. How's it going, buddy? Welcome back.
What's going on, y'all? Thanks for having me again, man. It's been a pleasure. I'm excited.
Excellent. Good. And over on in your world, you've got the IG podcast, right? So, what's going on? Tell everybody what you're doing.
Yeah, me and my fiance just started a podcast called Higher Burning. So we are getting the first episodes geared up and ready to launch here in the upcoming month here in towards the end of June, early July. Pretty much uncovering all the covered. Anything that we've been taught before in the past that we are starting to question and re-question and research over again. We're going to cover it from top to bottom, from flat Earth to reptiles to everything in between. You name it, we talk about it. So check that out, the Higher Burning podcast on IG, and we'll be coming soon.
We've got the moderators will be dropping the link, and Streamlabs will as well. So excellent. Glad to have you back, buddy. And his opponent tonight in this epic debate for the ages. I know I'm overselling it, but give me a break here. We've got the man who always brings logic and cheese to his YouTube endeavors, the one and only Mr. Sensible.
Hey, yay. Thanks very much, Dick. I really appreciate you doing all the work and having to worry about all the sound and all that rubbish so I don't have to. And I'd also like to say a big thanks to Jay for agreeing to this. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. Likewise.
Yeah, I do want to read out, if that's okay with you guys, a couple of super chats I've had, just to acknowledge them really. But I had a super chat for €10 from Judy Bassett saying nothing. Thank you, Judy. Judy is a long-term supporter. And from Aryan, I think it's 50 krona, saying it's time to wake up, sheeple. You too, Sharky. And then I had a second super chat, and this is the reason I particularly wanted to address the super chats I've got right now. I had one from Iron Soldust, hope I said that all right, for 50 krona, saying, Mr. Sensitive, why you block people? Can't handle the truth. I'll have you know I'm blocking nobody, and I've already posted a message in the chat for my mods asking them to be gentle, lenient, and understanding, as long as people aren't using hate speech or just being grossly offensive. We welcome alternative views. Okay, so Arian, no one is being blocked. Okay, to my knowledge. And finally, since it's there as well, Tim Tully super chat $5 US saying I fall on it due to gravity. Thank you, Tim. But with that, I'll hand it back to you. And any more super chats, I understand we'll handle them differently during the show anyway.
Yeah, we want to keep things going. So what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to have a few rounds back and forth, timed at 3 minutes apiece. One person will start, the other will respond, flip-flop back and forth. At the end of the 4 rounds, we're going to get into a slightly more informal back and forth that still will be moderated. And then we'll, depending on time and everything, we'll get to some questions from viewers and the other super chats. And, we'll make sure to get our housekeeping done properly and wrap it up. So what we need to do at this point is roll the dice quick to see who's going to go first. And I've got a little thing right here. So why don't we say odd numbers, Mr. Sensible goes first, even number, Jay goes first. Everybody in agree?
Yep.
All right. And survey says, Jay, you are first up tonight.
All right.
So, we've got a 3-minute timed round, and Jay will be leading us forward. So, is there anything to present here, or are you just going to be, giving us a presentation on live?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and start with a video. Can you guys still see me? Okay.
Your camera's off right now.
Okay, I figured that was the case. How about now?
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll start the clock when you start, and the floor is yours, Jay. Take it away.
Yeah. I'll go ahead. I'll wait till to share some stuff until we see what Mr. Sensible brings to the table. You guys have kind of heard these debates back and forth now for a couple years, and one of the things you brought up, Dick, on the last debate with McToon that I thought was kind of interesting and it challenged me was, a lot of times you do hear kind of the same information being kind of regurgitated. So I really tried to challenge myself this go around to really try to just bring something fresh to the table. New information, new research that maybe a lot of people haven't seen yet. At the basis of this argument, it's pretty simple. The Earth is not curved because we don't experience or observe curvature. The Earth is the center of the universe. It is a flat or level stationary realm or plane that we all live on and we're grown into. And the only way you can leave is to die. This is not a place that you can exit by means of outer space and travel to distant lands and distant galaxies in our worldview. And the heart of that worldview is recorded history. We've got ancient civilizations over the last 4,500 years, 5,000 years. Majority of them to subscribe to some type of enclosed stationary Earth diagram, so to speak. And it's really just kind of a resurgence of that. It never really died. It just kind of died down when we talk about flat Earth. Now, I definitely want to address what flat Earth isn't. It isn't a flat disk floating in space at 1g of acceleration like the Flat Earth Society would like you to believe. There's a lot of disinformation out there. As with all things that get labeled conspiracy, because what we understand about the enemy, and in my opinion, my belief is the enemy is Lucifer, right? Everything gets resolved to good and evil in my worldview. And so the key component of the enemy is to leave truth in plain sight and to deal with opposites. So a lot of these things that we are taught to believe, we actually come out to find out that the opposite is true. So those are the things that we'll talk about. I'm going to talk a lot about the extremes. I think at the end of the day, what we really need to focus on in this argument are the two areas where our models, both the flat Earth model, so to speak, and the global Earth model, differ completely. And that would be, the upward trajectory. So we believe that there's only so far high you can go. The globe proponents believe that there's an outer space where we can go further. And the outside, where we believe that Antarctica, which is the highest landmass on Earth known to man, is the kind of the ceiling, and we live within the Antarctic basin. And in our model, or the most commonly accepted idea of what the flat Earth may look like, Antarctica is a 60,000 degree or 60,000 mile circumference around the entire Earth plane. Whereas on the globe, it's what I want to say 1,300 miles, something like that, on the bottom of the ball. And so these are the two extremes that we really can look at to try to decipher which model has more credence in observation. And so I hope to show a little bit of that today. I just want to start with just a generic opening, say hello to Mr. Sensible, and I'll let you take the floor from there then.
All right, there we go. So, Mr. Sensible, you're muted there. So, Mr. Sensible, response is yours. I'll start the timer as soon as you're ready to go.
Yeah, so is this just response to his first chunk, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, are we ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Right, you say we don't observe curve, only we do. Anytime you're at the coast, you can see an effect of Earth curvature. You can see an effect of Earth curvature if you are able to go high enough. It's there. Setting sun every day, rising sun every day because of Earth curvature. Center of the universe, well, actually, as it's infinite, yeah, we are the center of the universe. So is every other place in the universe. So that's quite interesting you mentioning that, though. You said about the ancients. The ancients had their models with a flat model or stationary or whatever. They did their best. I mean, if you go out, if you start day one, you step out Yeah, a good first place to start is the Earth is flat. The problem is you then need to take it further and investigate further. They took it to the limits they had, although some, like Eratosthenes, obviously managed to take things further with his sticks and calculating about the sun and so on. You mentioned the enemy. I'll say here and now, I'm not a religious person at all, so I won't discuss anything about God, Satan, or anything like that, because to me, I'm not wishing to insult, but to me, it means nothing. Okay, so I'm not even going to address that. Upward trajectory, as far as we can go. Well, Voyager 1 and 2. And now I forget the actual distance. I think Voyager 2 is now nearly a light day away from us. That's a long way. It takes the signals 23 hours and nearly to 24 hours for the signals to travel to us at the speed of light. So we can go quite far, and we can certainly, without doubt, go into low Earth orbit today. Because you can see the ISS, you can see satellites. If you ever saw the Starlink satellites all going across the sky in a trailing line, before a couple of years ago, whatever it was, they sent the first one up, that sort of effect had never been seen before. You can see it now. So we can go up there. Highest landmass. I've heard that mentioned before, because, of course, the highest point on Earth would be Everest. So I don't know if you're talking about the entire continent of Antarctica as a whole being higher, but at some places you can walk up the beaches of Antarctica. And you said about it having a 60,000 mile circumference, only mapping would disagree. And I forget the name. Is it the Vendée race? I think it might be the Vendée race. But there's a race that goes around Antarctica. You can circumnavigate it, and you don't have to circumnavigate the entire Earth laid out as a disc. That would take you a damn sight longer. So I think I've addressed all the points you made, unless I missed any, in which case I apologise. I tried to scribble them down quickly. So there we go.
You hit the timer perfect. That was awesome.
Oh, cool.
That was awesome.
I can't even see the timer.
Yeah. Oh, it's on the meets feed, but it's irrelevant. I let it. We can go a little here and there. It doesn't really matter. So first round down. Let's see here in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you think Jay took it, and put a 2 in the chat if you think Mr. Sensible took it. So we'll flip the coin this time, and Mr. Sensible gets to lead off with some points that he would like Jay to respond with.
All right. Okay. Just let me get set, can I?
Sure. No problem. No problem. We'll let a few of the votes come in. I'll flip around and see a couple of them myself.
I will want to present for this. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to present. I'll present in a second if I can let you know when. Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Jay, one of the biggest things that flat earthers always say is water finds its own level, which indeed it does. It establishes a gravitational equipotential. So you're not going to get an area of water with a little hump. No, it's going to level out. That is undeniable. The question is, what is level? On a flat surface, level is also flat. On a spherical Earth, level is curved, which of course is what a lot of the dispute's about. So if I can share this now, Dick, I'll press the button. I don't know, Jay, if you've ever heard of a thing called a towing tank. These are tanks that they use to test boats. They're models of boats to test their seaworthiness and so on. I'll turn off. Hopefully the sound is not coming through. They drag the model along on a gantry running on rails over a wave-made surface, so they can do calculations to see how these boats perform. You must have seen them before. I think most people have. Now, the gantry must not lift the boat out of the water or push it down in the water. It must remain constant the whole time. And I need to stop sharing now, don't I? How do I stop sharing? Yeah, there we go. It needs to remain constant the whole time. So in order to do that, those rails have got to follow the level of the surface of the water. And indeed they do. This is Southampton University's towing tank, which is built in 75, I think. And when they make the rails, they get adjusted. I need to present again, don't I? Sorry, Dick. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to
All
ask.
good.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I see it again?
Well, I'm showing you a document right now. I can show you the video again in a minute if you wish. This is a document about Southampton University's tow tank. And in there, this tank is, I think, it's 138 meters long. There's a curve in the middle, if you like, a height, that's called the sagittar, of 0.6 millimeters. Those rails follow the curve of the earth and follow the curve of the surface of the water. If they didn't, they would get misreadings. It needs to be accurate to within 0.1 millimeters over the entire length. So it took 2 weeks to adjust it. One guy does the adjustments. It took 2 weeks, and he has to do it using pins that just break the surface of the water. They can't even use lasers because over that distance, 138 meters, the lasers would not be accurate enough. And if you want to see the towing tanks again, will it be on this one? Sorry, one sec. Yeah, this is towing tanks. I don't know what's taking a while to load. Here we go. So it's a long tank of water, got a wave maker at the end with a gantry running on rails. Now, those rails in the Southampton example are 0.6 millimeters higher, for want of a better term, in the center than they are at each end because they follow the curve of the earth. So at that point, I think that's, I've made my point, I think. So I'll leave it to you to argue against it.
Excellent. All right. So we'll hand it over to Jay for a response. The timer got screwed up when I switched sets there. Don't really know what happened. OBS just, crapped. So we'll just give Jay a fair amount of time and, it'll be close to 3 minutes-ish or whatever.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Here you go, buddy. All yours.
Thank you. And give me 1 second. I'm just trying to pull up the footage that I would like to share. And me personally, I'm not tripping about the time. So, Mr. Sensible, I've watched your debates. You're a good dude. You're concise. So, whatever you gotta, whatever time you gotta take to make your point, I'm not tripping, bro. It's all good.
Thank you. Me neither. Me
Excellent.
neither.
Let's see here.
Yeah, no worries.
Mile from one end in the pool to the drone. I filmed it.
Where is it? Where is it? So what I would like to show, and I'm going to go ahead and give an example here, but let's just go ahead and stick to the argument first. You made your entire argument was based on the claim that if the Earth is spherical, then level is curved. Am I correct in saying that? So that means in order to prove that level is curved, we need to first prove that Earth is spherical. So my question to you, and this is rhetorical, is your towing tank example to scale of the Earth? I would argue, and I believe that you would argue, that it's not. So to automatically use this one example as inference to what the surface of the Earth looks like when neither are to scale, to me doesn't sound like apples to apples in terms of a comparison. If we were doing, for example, when you made your video in your debate, I forget the guy you debated on your channel, it was kind of an informal debate, and you made the video of the tack on the ball, and he was trying to explain to you how in order for this to be a perfect representation of the Black Swan, right? The two platforms, one a mile away, one, I think 9 miles away, and the horizon is behind that second platform. In order for your example to match that, we need to be to scale. And so right away, if we're not seeing an apples to apples comparison in terms of scale, because that's how you can lock in the proportionate distance. It doesn't matter the amount of distance, because obviously we can't model the size of the Earth. We live here. So you can't make a model the size of Earth, but you can make a model to scale or make an experiment or an example to scale. So that would be the main thing that I would say against your point, is it's just simply not to scale. If we stretch this across, 3-4 times, it's you think you said it was 138 meters was the length of the pool. Stretch that 3-4 times the length, then I would say at least you have, a good representation of a pond or a lake, right? But you're talking about, there's, my gym pool is bigger than that at Lifetime. So to me, that's just not an accurate representation of Earth to use as defense or to imply that the Earth is therefore curved based on the curvature you see in that experiment you gave us. And I'll actually leave it there. The video, I can show it. The video I wanted to show was, it's actually a video of a sunset, and it's the sun 2 times a year. The sun sets in a way where you can see Mount Canigou from over a mile away. Okay. And in this observation, you can clearly see no mountains, no mountains, no mountains. And then all of a sudden, we see Mount Canigou. And so what we would say about curvature here on the ground should also apply to the sky, right? As things get further and further away, whatever's below that geometric horizon, depending on your elevation, you shouldn't be able to see those things unless, like you guys like to claim, there's refraction taking place, which I will get into in a little bit here. But just all in all, I would say that we need an apples to apples comparison for that to be accepted as a true representation of Earth's curvature.
All right. So there's our response. Round 2 down. I think that makes it round 3. Jay leads us off with a piece of evidence for his side that he would like Mr. Sensible to have to answer.
Yeah.
I think so we're good. We're good. Let's see here. I'll make a little hello to somebody in the chat. And Jay, when you're ready, it's all yours.
Sure. So let me go ahead and try to get this thing rocking here. This is my first time trying to screen share, so I really hope it works.
All right.
Let's see here. Share screen. Start broadcast. And boom. It looks like it's working, yes? You guys can see my screen?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, cool. You're good, man. All good.
So one of the things that we talk about that I've seen in a lot of videos from other people is the firmament, right? This glass dome, right? That people are saying is over the earth and you know, it's impenetrable and we can't leave. I want to talk a little bit about the evidence for that, because as outlandish and as crazy as it sounds, there are certain things that we can admit to as being the case that that at least supports the idea that there could be something overhead. For instance, we know the Earth has an electromagnetic field. If you look at that field kind of drawn out, certain scientists will say it's a toroidal field. I don't even really understand what that means. But if you look at the diagram, it literally looks like a firmament. So what we see here, and I'll show here just this one video, I want to show first what stars look like within the firmament. And so I want to go to this specific video. Let's see here if I can find a video on 10. And sorry, actually, this is really hard to see on my screen. So just give me 1 second here. 40/20.
Sure, no problem.
Here. Can you guys hear that audio?
No, I'm not hearing anything.
No, me.
Okay. You can hear me though?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
That's actually better. So this is a video of a group of guys who went out and they tried to capture, I'm gonna pause it because the audio is playing. They tried to capture lightning or sprites in the air. I don't even, again, these are things that I don't fully understand, but what I want to be paid attention to is just what's happening here at about 40 minutes. And I think I got 20 seconds here. And what you should see here, hopefully you guys can hear me, but what you should see here is you're going to see this energy being directed from a source. It doesn't just spontaneously appear. It actually looks like it's emanating from the sky. And if we pause here, right there, if we pause right here. Now, this is also what rockets look like. If you've ever watched footage from Operation Fishbowl, right? Which Operation Fishbowl, part of Operation Fishbowl was Project Dominic. Dominic in Latin means of the Lord. So you're talking about Fishbowl of the Lord. But if you look at this evidence here, what you're seeing is this directed energy coming from the sky and coming out towards us, right? And to me, this is just one of many observations that there is something up there that is a force field or some type of energy that keeps the other energy on Earth kind of trapped inside. Even science admits this. They call it the Van Allen belts. I'll pull up another video here in my second point because I know I'm really running out of time here in a minute. But in my second point, one of the videos from the Orion project, the guy who's explaining the project literally says, and other people on the ISS admit this right now, that they're flying in low Earth orbit. They're trying to build the technology right now to leave low Earth orbit. Now, low Earth orbit, regardless of if you want to call it space or not, which obviously it's not outer space, but it is within the Van Allen belts. The problem is the moon is outside of those Van Allen belts. And so for them to argue that we're trying to build technology today to get through these Van Allen belts, when we should have gone through them 12 times between 1969 and 1972, along with the other observations that we show, like another observation I will show here in a little bit, that's just more proof to us that there is something over our heads that is supplying or controlling or regulating this energy. And things like, I'll actually show one more. How much time do I have, Dick? Can I show one more video?
Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. Let's see here. So I'm going to go to one more video here. And if you guys have never seen this, that experiment that they did is fascinating to me. But let me go to one more here, and I can pull it up if I just... Actually, you know what? Let's go to actual YouTube. Let's go to the library. Let's go to the... And we're going to go with proof 3 at 38 minutes here. And I want this to be seen here because what's happening is very similar to what we see a boat do when it hits water. Now, what we're saying about the firmament is not only is there a molten-like structure, glass, right? And there'll be another proof that I'll show here that kind of leads credence to that, but it's also water. The scripture tells us that the firmament separated water from water. And so if you look at this is a rocket flying through the sky here, and you're going to watch as this rocket appears to hit water in the same way that we see a boat hit water and skip over waves in the water. This rocket literally looks like it's going through water. Now, there's another video I'll show later in my third point of a rocket going straight up in the sky. And Mr. Sensible, I'm sure you've seen this before. This rocket goes straight up in the sky at, hundreds of miles an hour. It's spinning and then stops immediately. And you have to ask yourself, what type of energy can make that rocket stop dead in its tracks almost, but not destroy the rocket itself? And for us, that answer is water, because the firmament is water.
All right.
So that's
all right. So
there, and you go ahead. Yeah, I'll go ahead and end my time with that. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll switch us back over, and it's really changed the windows this time. Every time we come out of presentation, Google Meets is rearranging the windows. So in the background, I keep having to fix them, but that's no big deal. So, Mr. Sensible, it's your response. We're not going to worry about the clock on this round because everybody was finding stuff. So there you go.
Okay, well, there's certainly a lot of points you brought up there, so I'll race through them, and then if we need to, we can expand on them later. You said about the electromagnetic field around the Earth. There is indeed, but that's not solid. It will deflect or divert particles from the sun in the solar wind, but it's not going to stop solid objects. The business of sprites, I don't know quite what you're talking about there, but the video, it was a bit hard to see, but to me, that looked like lightning lighting up the clouds and continuing on down, because you hear of lightning and sheet lightning. That's actually the same thing, except that with sheet lightning it's within the clouds, so you can't see the actual bolt, you just see it as it lit up. That looked to me as though it was just lighting up the cloud that it was coming from. You said about the Van Allen belts being the Van Allen belts. The Van Allen belts do exist, of course, but they're much, much further away. They're way outside low Earth orbit. They're not going to be the sort of heights we're talking about with lightning or anything like that. I hope I haven't misunderstood there. You said about leaving low Earth orbit. We haven't left low Earth orbit since the Apollo program, but we sent lots of objects which have. The various probes that have gone to the other planets, like the Voyagers and the Mars probes and so on, they've all gone beyond low Earth orbit. It is space. Low Earth orbit is space. Space starts, I think, at about 70 miles. It's an indeterminate height called the Kármán line, but low Earth orbit is in space, not outer space. It's just space. And you said about the number of times we would have had to have traveled through the Van Allen belts to get to the moon. Yeah, we did. They made sure that they routed the Apollo capsules to a weaker part of the Van Allen belts as possible, and to travel through them as quickly as possible. Even so, those astronauts, brave men, will have got a certain dose of radiation from those belts. We can physically go through. If you launched a rocket with you in it, you could go through that belt. And yeah, you get some radiation. The big problem for us nowadays is the electronics. You need to harden and shield the electronics. Our electronics are much more delicate than they were then. You think of microchips, how many transistors we got on a chip now. We're talking things at the nanometer or even smaller scale nowadays, and that can get affected by radiation. The video you said about the rocket and sort of skipping off water, those were just expanding gases. Now, I don't know which rocket that was, whether it was a stage separation, so you get sudden burst of exhaust gases, I don't know. But it's expanding gases. Yes, it might have looked like the wake of a boat, but looking like something doesn't mean it is something. I mean, I won't even say. Sorry, it never gets you. You said about the firmament separating the water. Well, if you're thinking of electromagnetic field possibly as a firmament, that's not going to separate anything solid. Besides, and unless you have got something solid, what would keep that water up there? And that would also mean the moon, stars, and everything is in water. There's no evidence for anything like that. And you said, that rocket spinning thing. I do know, I have seen that video. It's spinning like crazy and stopped dead. And I can't recall if it was stopped dead with sort of retro thrusters or counterweights to actually counteract the spin. I don't know, but there is a perfectly rational explanation for it. You said it would break up. I don't see why it would. It's more likely to break up if it hits something, in effect, solid, like water, because going at the speeds of the rocket, that water would be the same as hitting a brick wall. Yeah, and I think that's it, really. Oh, and just thinking about those that rocket spinning, I said about counterweights. It's reaction mass or reaction wheels. Just like if I'm spinning on the chair, if I suddenly swing the other way, I can stop myself. If you can picture what I mean, just counter-reacting to the spin that there is. Well, you did bring up a lot in just that short time. I'm impressed at that.
I'll agree there. Absolutely. Absolutely. So end of the round, and we'll go into our last little timed rounds, and then we'll give you guys a bit more of a back and forth where we can, relax a bit more and make it a bit more informal. So I do believe that leaves us with Mr. Sensible to give us a few points in a couple of minutes, and Jay will respond, and that will be the time rounds in the bag.
I think that's only the second one, though, Dick. I've done the one about the
Oh, really?
I've done the one about the towing tank. I haven't done my other two or three, or whatever it was.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Yep. Okay. It's the difference of 4 rounds, as in there's 4 or 4 each get to lead 4. That's what we did. But they can be used either way. So we'll just go with the flow, right? Okay. So Mr. Sensible leads off, and away you go.
Right, Jay, I'm sure you've heard of neutrinos. It's not something that we need to know much about in our day-to-day life, but neutrinos are almost massless particles whizzing all through the universe. Through my thumbnail, every second, there's hundreds of trillions of neutrinos passing. You can't see them, really difficult to detect. We can detect them, but we need specially constructed equipment, which are great big tanks, usually of chlorine, and they're underground because cosmic rays could also be detected. But by placing these tanks underground, it rules out the cosmic rays, because they get stopped by the Earth. And if I could like to just screen share an image, Dick, if I can.
All good. Yeah.
So using these cosmic ray detectors, as the neutrinos are coming from our sun, and they're of one of three types: electrons, neutrons, or tau, and they can flip between types. As they come through the sun, they will go into the Earth and into the tank, and every now and then a neutrino will hit one of the chlorine atoms, making a particle of radioactive argon, and we can detect that. Now, this image, which looks like the sun, was built up over 500 days. When they got a signal, they could detect the direction of it and added it to the image, and it built up what is obviously the sun, which is our local source of neutrinos. Now, the two interesting things about that, I'll tell you the first one now. That image of the sun was taken from hundreds of feet underground, so not by visible light, but by neutrinos. Now, what they have also done is there's another tank, this vast tank, which is called the Super K, or Super Kamiokande in Japan. This has actually got 13,000 sensors all around it, with 50,000 tons of water inside it, and it's built in as a disused zinc mine, 3,300 feet underground. Now, when those neutrinos come through the Earth, then they can get changed. They can get flipped from electron, neutron to tau, or one of those combinations. And when they get very close, if they sort of almost strike or just sort of clip the edge of one of the atoms in the tank, they fly off like snooker balls or billiard balls. And we can obviously then calculate the direction they come from. They tend to flip when they travel through the Earth. Now, that is 3,300 feet down. The interesting thing is, most of the neutrinos we detect, when we can detect the direction, come at night, when they have traveled through the entirety of the Earth. So they're coming from the other side of the Earth, not 3,300 feet above, but however many kilometers it is through the Earth, all the way through the Earth, until they hit a molecule in this tank, go careering off, and we detect it. So how we could be detecting neutrinos coming from below when they're coming from the sun is something I'd like to hear an explanation for, if you've got one.
Okay. And yep, see, it moved you guys, not me this time. I don't get it. But so anyway, I'll fix that in the background. Jay, floor is yours, brother. Take it away.
Yeah, so again, it's very similar to the first argument you made. The first argument you made, we inferred the shape of the Earth in an experiment that wasn't to scale. The second observation that we're making, we're inferring that because we're making these readings about the sun through the Earth or underground, that the information is coming through the Earth from the other side because it's happening at night, which again, on your model is a great explanation. The problem is, if we're obtaining this information through the Earth, well, if I'm not mistaken, the Earth's radius is 4,000 miles. Is that correct? You can respond to that. 4,000 miles approximately, the radius?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. The deepest hole ever driven is 8 miles. So if we're getting this information through the Earth, what technology is being used when all the technology we have today can't go past 8 miles? The reason that we haven't driven or we haven't drilled further than 8 miles is because the technology we have doesn't work. The drills stop working. It's too hot. They can't go any further. So this is also the reason why they infer that the Earth has a molten core. But again, if we've only gone 8 miles, that's like me, scratching the top of my skin and inferring what's on the other side of my arm. It doesn't make sense. So this is another one of those things where we're not necessarily giving evidence to the shape of the Earth. We're more so inferring the model that you already have, which is affirming the consequent at the end of the day. You're inferring the model you have based on the observations that you make. This is why I said in my opening, unless you're going to really talk about the extremes, going out, going up, or going low, right? Because that's an extreme as well. Unless you're going to talk about those, you're really not isolating anything. You're really not showing us how the experiments that you're doing or presenting to us are matching the observations that we see or the information that we can verify on our own. So it's just another one of those things, like I said. And if I'm misquoting you, then I understand. But from what it sounded like, you said we get this information about the neutrinos, most of it at night, because it's coming through the Earth. I assume through the Earth's core, which again is just, in my opinion, is just ridiculous. So that would be my rebuttal.
Can I just respond to that, just to make sure that we
Please.
are talking? Yeah, most of it comes at night, and the flip neutrinos, which have been flipped by the Earth. But my point was, we can tell the direction they're coming from, and neutrinos can fly through the Earth like it's not there. It's really hard to get a collision. So that was the point of that detector. It actually detects the direction that they're coming from. So we'll get some in the day, yeah, but we'll get more flip when they go through a greater portion of the Earth. If you see what I'm saying. So they literally come all the way through.
Yep, I'm not gonna say I comprehend it. I couldn't regurgitate it, but I do understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Again, my argument would be the same. Is especially if you said we're not getting any interference, I would say that's because the sun's always overhead. So it would make sense to get some type of interference, in my opinion, if the sun were at some point on the other side and the information that we're reading about the sun at night is coming through the Earth's core. But again, we've never observed that. The sun's always up somewhere.
But that's the observation.
That is the observation.
The observation is that when it travels through a greater portion of the Earth, rather than just 3,000 odd feet, you get more neutrinos have been flipped because they've gone through more of the Earth.
Yeah. So again, that's something like I've never heard of neutrinos. So I would definitely look it up and see like,
yeah, please do.
What's
please
a
do.
neutrino? And you know what I mean? But just on the surface, I would say everything's on the surface. No pun intended.
That was good. That was good.
All right. Give you a point for that.
Okay. Oh, geez, where are we? I had a little spreadsheet to keep track of the turns, and it crashed. So there's, that's a thing.
It's Jay's turn to present if he's got another evidence, and then I've got one.
Excellent.
One more.
Okay, perfect. I thought that's where we was, but I better make sure. There is gin in that tonic, right?
All right. Let me see if I can find this last video here. Just give me 30 seconds here. Let's see. Okay.
Right.
Two things I want to talk about. I'm actually going to combine points here. When again talking about the outsides, right? Again, if in our model we can say, basically what I'm looking at here in this debate and all the debates I've seen is pretty much, taking the same data and just kind of fitting it to what we think is happening. So we're thinking small local sun producing seasons, for instance. You guys are thinking sun far away, Earth's tilt producing seasons, and both work. What we're looking at again is the extremities, right? So whether up or whether out. Now, when we're talking about out, we're talking about, and at least in my argument, we're talking about the 24-hour sun. Now, anybody who's being honest, you could take a minute and a half to search 24-hour sun in the Arctic, so in the north, right? And you'll find several time-lapse videos, no edits, full 24-hour sun never sets. You see sunlight, not daylight. You see sunlight the entire time. It's not the same case when we look at 24-hour sun in the Antarctic. So if the Earth is a globe, and even though they say it's, we have pictures of it, a perfect sphere, it's not a perfect sphere, it's oblate, and it's tilted. But even still, they make the claim that we see the 24-hour sun in the north and in the south. Now, if you go look at videos of the 24-hour sun in the Antarctic, first off, there's only 3 of them that you'll find on YouTube, at least. Of those 3, they're all edited. So they all have at least one cut. It's not a continuous time lapse, right? And in one of them where it is a continuous video, it's about 1 minute and 30 seconds. And actually, I'm actually just going to show this. So let's go to a screenshot or screen share. because that's way more fun. And we're going to go to my history. And we're going to go right here. And so if you guys can see this, actually, no, this is not the video. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I cannot get out of YouTube sometimes when I need to. Let's try this one. It's like you're stuck in there sometimes. Let's see here. Antarctica, 24-hour sun. Now, I would encourage everyone to just look at this here. And if you notice in this video, this is the start of the video. This is the start of the actual 24-hour sun. It's about 20 seconds where it starts. Go about right here. Okay. And if you're watching this all the way through, you will notice, and I'm just going to fast forward here because you can actually see this. When we get to about right here, obviously the sun disappears, which, okay, that's fine. But this is the exact same footage from the beginning of the video. That scene right there is the exact same footage. And we can verify this because the other 24-hour sun video, which I believe is right here. No, this is the Arctic. And actually, let's go ahead and show the Arctic because the difference here is the sun's not going to leave. There is no cuts here. And I can send this to you if you've never seen it before, but there's plenty of video of this. The sun is going nowhere. You can even see in my thumbnail, the sun is not leaving the entire time, always above head. We don't see this in the videos of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And there is another video online of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And if I can find it, this one here. Again, if you look at this video here, there's no one who's ever seen the sun with crepuscular rays like this, which, by the way, crepuscular rays alone defy what you guys say is happening with the sun's light, because you say the light's coming in parallel. No one's ever seen parallel rays from the sun. We do see crepuscular rays, but we don't see them like this. So if you compare this video with my first video of the 24-hour sun, it's clear to see that we're just not getting the same information. If we're getting a 24-hour sun in the north that regular people can verify, we should be able to see that same 24-hour sun in the south, and we're just not seeing it. How much time do I have left, Dick?
I'd say a minute or so here. We're pretty casual now, so
Sure. Let's go ahead and do one more, and I hope that I land on this here. Let's see. Because the last thing I want to talk about with the firmament, and if I can't find a video, it's fine, I can talk about it. But one of the big things to me that is a sign of the firmament is rainbows. And specifically when we talk about rainbows, if I can get back on the screen here, where are you guys at? There you are. Can you guys see me? There I am. So we talk about rainbows, and I'll actually look for this video while I'm talking. The concept of a rainbow is very simple. In the globe model, they teach us that a rainbow is being caused by the light being refracted by the water droplets in the atmosphere, creating this arch that we see with the color spectrum, right? Similar to a prism. Now, when you're outdoors, a rainbow can be created using just light and water, right? You already got the light from the sun, and all you need is water. So anytime I'm outside washing my car, if the water hits just right on my car, boom, rainbow on the ground. Now, the cool thing about a rainbow is always in a fixed arch, and that arch relative shape never changes. And if I don't have time to show the video now, I will show it when I get a chance to, maybe in the open discussion, because I want people to see this. But it's always in a fixed arch, and that fixed arch never changes. Now, when we're indoors, and you and I both know this, you can create a rainbow inside. However, if you're not using the sun, you have to have artificial light, and you have to have a mirror. You have to have some type of reflective surface to create that rainbow effect. Now, in the footage that I will show you, you will see that anytime an indoor rainbow is created, it is always in the shape of the mirror being used to create the effect. 100% of the time, if you use a CD, if you use a bowl, if you use a magnifying glass, it will take the shape of the rainbow. Now, what's fascinating, obviously, and kind of begging the question, which is a little bit of a fallacy here, but just kind of play with it for a little bit, is if that's what's happening, right? Outside, we have a rainbow with a fixed arch that never changes. Why can't we produce that fixed arch inside? Why is it that the arch of the rainbow takes the shape of the reflector that we're using? In fact, to kind of latch onto that, why do we need a mirror at all? Because according to science, the rainbow is being created by the water droplets refracting light. So all you should need indoors is water droplets and light. And that reflected light should create a rainbow, but it doesn't happen without a mirror, and you cannot create the same arch of a rainbow. And I want to add one more thing to that, and I'll wrap up my time. The smoking gun of a rainbow, in my opinion, if you've never seen it, is a double rainbow. And the reason that a double rainbow is the smoking gun proof is because, one, it maintains the original shape of the rainbow. So it's in that fixed arch, just like the rainbow is. But the reason that we can know for sure that it's not the water droplets causing the effect is because the double rainbow, the colors are inverted. So instead of Roy G. Biv on the secondary rainbow, it's Vib G. Yor, right? This is indefinite proof or evidence that the rainbow effect is being caused by a physical mirror or a physical obstruction, a physical reflective body that is creating this fixed arch. And not only are we seeing the original reflection, Roy G. Biv, but when we look up, we see the inverted reflection in the same arch. Now, if you compare that in my video, which I'll show, if you compare that to a rainbow that's being reflected, so let's say we have a single rainbow, and then we have a reflected rainbow like in water, right? Have you seen a rainbow over water? The reflected rainbow also has inverted colors, right? But it's also an inverted arch. So you see the regular rainbow this way, you see the inverted rainbow this way. A double rainbow doesn't do that. It gives us the opposite color spectrum in the same fixed arch. In my opinion, this is indefinite evidence that not only is the sun outside of the mirror, because it has to go through the mirror to create the rainbow to begin with, but that that mirror has a fixed, unchanging shape, and that change is an arc.
All right. All right. So I think we have to turn to Mr. Sensible here and see what the Logic and Cheese Man says. Yeah.
Okay. Right. First of all, you said about the Earth being a blade. Yes, it is. But if you took a 1 meter diameter beach ball, you're talking about squishing it by about 3 millimeters. It's virtually a perfect sphere. That video with the Antarctic 24-hour sun, I have seen that. I think we all have. And I don't know why those clouds are the same at each end. Who produced that? I don't know. That certainly does look funny, but I think that's down to whoever's created that video. I have no explanation for that, quite why they do that, because it's 24 hours later. So, of course, you'd have totally different clouds. So I don't know if that was a joke video or what. But you said about they've done plenty of film of the 24-hour sun in the Arctic. Yeah, which means at that time you got 24-hour night in the Antarctic. And when you get 24-hour night in the Arctic, that means you're going to have 24-hour day in the Antarctic. And of course, you could always do an experiment. It might be quite pricey. You could go to the to Antarctica if you wished, and set up at the right time of year, set up a camera and film that 24-hour sun yourself. But I'll stop you. Don't say anything about Antarctic Treaty unless you've read it, because it's about 12 or 15 simple paragraphs, and you can go there. That shot with the sun, when you were talking about crepuscular rays, that was lens flare. That was nothing more than lens flare, that starring pattern. But crepuscular rays, yes, you get crepuscular rays with anything coming towards you parallel. If you're in between or looking at a side, they'll appear to diverge. Think railway tracks. If you stand in the middle of a railway track, those rails are going to appear to get closer together as they get further away. But we know that the rails are actually the same distance apart. Otherwise, all the trains would come off. So this whole thing about trying to measure the distance to the sun, that's like trying to measure the distance to London by looking at the angle of the rails. It won't work. And of course, as you move around, the crepuscular rays that you see through gaps in the cloud move and change. Right, rainbows. I was going to say, yeah, just use a garden hose. You can make rainbows, but you did say that. You can make a rainbow indoors by splitting the light using a prism, a Toblerone-shaped lens, and that light will split. That's all it is. And you mentioned double rainbows, so I don't need to go there. And you said it's not water drops. Actually, yes, it is. But we saw the most beautiful rainbow not 24 hours ago, just over 24 hours ago. Went out with Mrs. S for a meal, and there was spattering rain and this most beautiful rainbow. You do not get the sun behind the rainbow. The sun is behind or to the side of you. What the rainbow is the light coming from the sun, going into the droplet and bouncing off the internal surfaces and back towards you. That's your prism. That's why you get rainbows after rain. You're not going to get rainbows when it's dry. I mean, you may be outside the rainy area, but you need the drops of water in the air to produce that rainbow. I don't know what you're talking about making. I know you can get sort of rainbow colors reflected from a CD or whatever, but that is, I believe, slightly different thing. It is splitting the light, but you can certainly do it indoors. You could do it indoors with a mister if you wanted, a little water mister. There's no reason why not. Or you can take your garden hose in, but you might ruin your carpet. So I think I've covered all those points. But crepuscular rays, just a nothing. You honestly think of railway tracks or stood on a straight bit of freeway. As you go further away, due to perspective, the sides appear to come in. That's all crepuscular rays are. And if you step to one side, they appear to change. So that's not going to calculate the distance to the sun.
Can I respond to that, or do you want to wait for our open discussion?
Well,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, please respond, and then I've got my last evidence to bring forward. But yeah, respond.
I actually found the video too. So if we want to show that now, we can. If not, we can wait a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of address what you just said. So crepuscular rays, I think that's what you just said. Again, like I was saying, the crepuscular rays are not proof of distance to the sun. So I never made the argument of distance to the sun.
My apologies.
I don't believe. No, it's okay. I don't believe that you can measure the distance to the sun, because we believe that the sun's position is always relative, because what we see as the sun is a reflection. We don't believe that we're seeing the apparent sun, because that apparent sun exists outside of our realm. So everything that we're seeing of the sun, even of the moon, is apparent. So if you have three people lined up 150 feet apart from each other, they're all going to measure the distance to the sun differently. It would be similar to looking at the sun through a mirror. So if you see the sunlight behind you, you got a mirror in front of you, and now all of us are trying to triangulate the sun from the mirror's image. You can't do it because everybody's perspective is different. So that's kind of where my stance is. As far as the double rainbow is concerned, the reason I think the double rainbow, I'll show it demonstrably that it is evidence that the water droplets can't be causing it, is because a double rainbow in nature, the top rainbow is always inverted. Now, when you're creating a double rainbow indoors, right, using your own light, using your own prism, as you just mentioned, a prism will create the effect. The double rainbow matches. You've got Roy G. Biv in the top rainbow and in the bottom. That does not happen in nature. So when we're talking about observable science, we're saying, why is the double rainbow in nature curved to the same arch of its reflective, brother, the original rainbow, but the colors are still inverted? That would be the argument. And we would say, because from our perspective, we're getting the image of the rainbow, right? Light to prism, color spectrum. And then from us looking up, the same thing is happening, but because we're looking through the same mirror, right? So from our vantage point, it's, what is this, convex, correct? And this is concave? So it's the opposite. It's concave from where it's coming from. It's convex from our vantage point, which is why the arch stays the same, but the colors of the rainbow are different. And I have that video if we do want to show it, because it's fascinating. I think you guys really should see it. It's kind of cool.
Well, I'd have to say. Oh, sorry, Dick. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, why don't we keep the video for after? And because, that was a response, an extra response in one of the timed rounds. So, Mr. Sensible, do you want to take it away? All good there?
Yep. My last thing is we know that the Earth is curved. We know it's a sphere because we've looked. We've seen photos like the 1970. I know you went over this with MC Toon, so we won't hash everything. We've seen the 1972 Blue Marble, which was an actual photograph on film. We've seen lots of other images, which you can try and dispute. That's fine. But you can see it without going into space. You see the effect of curvature, as I said at the top of the stream, when you're at the coast looking away, because you don't expect to see horizon curved like that, but it curves away from you, and that hides things that are beyond a certain distance, barring refraction. My little experiment with the tack was not trying to show the black swan to scale. It was purely doing no more than showing that refraction of a lens that was this side, my side of the globe, could bring into view something that was beyond that physical geometric curve, and it did. In fact, more than that, it showed a little white flag that was on. It was even further around, but you can see it if you go up nowhere near as high as low Earth orbit. You can see it from several thousand feet. I know there's dispute over whether you can see it from an aircraft, and a lot of that's going to depend on your eyes and how clear the atmosphere is on those days. But if I can just share something, Dick, let me just a window. This one. Okay, hopefully that will come up. Have you ever seen this, Jay? Sorry, your sound's dead.
I believe so, but let's just I'll play dumb. No, go ahead.
Okay, this was an experiment where someone sent up a weather balloon with a camera to try and see the curvature of the Earth. At this height, it's actually nearly at its peak. If I just play a few seconds of it, there's no sound. So it's about 38.25 kilometers, and I'm wondering if you can see any curvature there. It's going to be. I know that the screen's very small, but this was using a narrow angle lens. There's no wide angle lens in the main screen. There is in the top little two windows, but we're not looking at those. So this is a narrow angle lens, so you've not got a wide field of view. But what he also did was he put two lines across it. They're physical strings that are stretched with springs, so they're dead straight to compare it with. And later on, if I just pause that, later on, this was the shot that he chose as probably about the best example. It's going across the center of the field of view because although it's a narrow angle lens, there should be minimal distortion. Every lens has a certain amount. It won't be across the middle. Right across the middle, it won't bend it up, won't bend it down. So that's the fairest place. And then I think by squishing it left and right, it accentuates the curve. It's not putting a curve where there isn't one. Straight lines remain straight. Only the curve gets to look more curvy, so it's easy to see. And it's quite obvious there that you can see curvature. So I just wondered what you say if someone actually sends up a camera and actually shows the curve, how can you deny that? And I think that's it, really, because that weather balloon had some beautiful footage. I'm not sure if, because that's probably about the best shot. Go back to this one, just show a bit more, because of course the weather balloon's rotating all the time. It's gently rocking, so it's hard to see. You've got a freeze frame at a point because, like you see there, most of the horizon is in the bottom third of the screen. So you want a point where it's across the center. But not only that, it also showed don't think you can see it very well. There's two graphs in the bottom left. One shows the temperature changes, but the one to the right actually shows the atmospheric pressure slowly coming down from about 100,000 pascals at ground level to about 300. Oh, there we go. 276 pascals, it says at the top right area. So it's 0.03% of atmospheric pressure. So 99.7% of the atmosphere is below. So that is vacuum. It's not the hard vacuum of space, but it's vacuum. It's damn near hard vacuum of space, but not quite. And that was done for, I think, several hundred, maybe $1,000, something like that. So it's something that you can do. We're not talking about £1 million project, something that is within reach of people. You could send your own camera. That guy did it. So what do you think of that?
All right.
Yeah, awesome. So actually, can you go ahead and throw your video back up?
Yeah. Just give me a sec.
Sure.
Oops.
So what I would say to this, first and foremost, is we know, or we're given, the dimensions of Earth, 24,902 miles. So we often, and you've done this before too, infer that curvature is visible or takes place at ground level, right? So we can see the effects of curvature this way, right? Just like if you see my hand here.
Yeah.
Things go further away due to perspective. You already said that, right? So we can see the effects of curvature on the ground. What I would suggest is if we're seeing the effects of curvature on the ground, then we are admitting that there is a geometric horizon. Now, I've already heard you mention before in other debates that we don't ever really see it. We normally only see the apparent horizon because of atmospheric conditions.
But you sound like a subscriber and a close follower of my channel. Thank you.
I do my homework, brother. I watch film.
Good for you.
Yeah, that's the basketball player in me. I got to watch film. So if we're seeing that on the ground, we're seeing the apparent horizon, right? Then that means as we ascend, that horizon, both apparent will change, but geometric will not. And so right away, looking at this video, I would suggest, well, hey, why do I not have to look down to even see this horizon? I'm looking at an extended horizon, right? Which kind of fits, in my opinion, it fits our model perfectly because we're saying that the Earth is a flat extended plane. So the higher that we ascend, we can see further out, but we never have to look down to see that horizon. Just like in this video here, I don't have to tilt my head at all. I would call this near eye level.
Okay.
If I was looking at this.
Oh, sorry. It is your response, Jay. I apologize.
It's okay. Yeah. So I would say this is near eye level in this video. The second thing I would say is, you've seen the maps, the Gleason map, the AE map that the USGS uses, the Mercator projection, they're all circular maps, right? And so what I would say to this video is it kind of looks like I'm looking at the outer rim of the Earth, which would be curved. I think the biggest straw man argument in this entire debate, or in this, since this has been kind of brought back up over the last few years, is that flat earthers don't think the Earth is round. And, that's just the most asinine thing I've ever heard of. Every flat earther thinks the Earth is round. All of them. We don't believe the Earth is spherical. So when you're showing me a curved surface, right, you're kind of following along with our model. But what I'm seeing is a curved surface that's flat because the horizon is at my eye or near eye level. So I actually expect to see on the edges curvature because you're looking at a curve. But if you notice in your video, every time you turn the camera, as the camera's panning, that curve stays the same. So in the middle, it's flat. On the outside, it's curved. So if every frame, if I was editing this video and every frame of my video showed flat in the middle, curved on the outsides, that would tell me I'm looking at a flat, circular-ish, whatever you want to call it, surface. Or the lens that I'm using is creating that effect, which we all know that lenses are shaped like your eyes. We actually see in a curve. If I took a foot stick and I put it in a semicircle, the ones on the outside would look shorter than the ones in the middle. But we would know that each stick is the same height. And that's because our eyes actually resolve images this way. And we both admitted to that earlier. So that would be my counter to that. It's actually exactly what I would expect to see on a flat extended plane.
Right. Well, what you're looking at now is from that video. There's two images. You can, to be honest, you can forget the right hand one, but the left hand image is barrel distortion. That's what lenses tend to do. That's why when you look at those wide angle lenses, you could see the Earth looking horrendously curved, horrendously flat, and then convex, concave. So it's barrel distortion. As you can see, if you've got a horizon, if you've got a line that passes through the middle, that line is straight. It doesn't get distorted, which is why an image was chosen. An image was chosen that crossed as close to the middle as possible. Also, the strings. Those strings are kept taut and straight. Now, there was very, very slight distortion. It wasn't hidden. It was talked about in the video. Very, very slight. But the curve goes the other way from the distortion. So if anything, the distortion would make it look flatter than it really is. You said something else about... so that's the lens. You talk about the height. When you're at ground level, you can't see very far. You go up a few hundred feet. There's nothing in the way. There's no buildings, no trees. There might be a hill or whatever. So go a couple of 1,000 feet. Well, here in the UK, you're not going to get mountains or things like that in your way generally. You could see a certain distance. As it went higher, you could see further and further. And it's not just, visually, I think I can see a bit further. You could pick up radio signals from people who are monitoring the weather balloon, or rather they could pick you up from a larger and larger distance. When it was at its peak height, it could be picked up about 400 miles away. So it was sort of across to Ireland and just to the continent. So basically across the UK and a bit. It didn't reach sort of Poland and Russia and places like that. That's not the far side of the Earth, because if that was the edge of the Earth, you could see. I know what you're saying. If it is a big round table sort of thing, if that was the edge, then it's got to go across all those other places. None of them picked up the signal from that weather balloon. And I do know about this, Jay, because just in case you didn't know, 1 second. It was my weather balloon. This is let me switch off my green screen just for a second, just so you can get a better look at it.
Sure.
There we go.
Mr. Sensible, unshare for a second, because then I can get you big on the screen.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 1 second. There we go. So this is the probe. That hole in the middle is where the camera was. That hole there. These are the strings. See, they're spring-loaded, and they are straight. And yet, what we could see, it's a bit awkward to hold. What you could see is curve going like that. I'm accentuating, but curve coming across here, across the center view of the camera where there's no distortion. If you go up here, that would make it look more curvy. If you come here, it would try and make it look curved the other way. In fact, it wasn't. You could still just see a slight curve, but it was here where there's no distortion. You have curve. And so can I suggest respectfully, Jay, because I think you find it interesting, is afterwards, if you haven't watched it, have a look at my channel. There's a Mage, it's called Mage, Mission Above Globe Earth. There's a Mage playlist, and the video you want to see, because there's quite a lot of them, is called What Shape is the Earth? Because it explains the equipment, it shows it through the non-distorting camera, and you get the full effect. And what I also did, because not perhaps you, I'm not suggesting you, I knew that there would be some people who'd say, oh, it's cut, it's edited. I also did full-length videos from launch to landing using both that camera and the other camera. So if you want, you can watch that, so to prove that there's no trickery. But yeah, Mage. Perhaps you didn't do your homework enough. And the last thing I did want to say is, you said about, did you say you're a basketball player?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you've got your eye right close to the basketball, you see more of that basketball. basketball it becomes more accentuated. It's a tight, if you held it at arm's length, it's a small little circle. You bring it right up to your head, and it fills your field of view. Oh, you're going to do spinny things on top of your finger and stuff.
No. Yeah, I would agree.
I'm just switching that back off. There we go. Yeah, so that was
similar to a basketball. Looking close at it, if I'm really close to it, it's hard to make out, right, what the shape is. But as you get further, that physical horizon doesn't move. And so anytime, if you're arguing that we're just this off the surface, and so that's why the horizon is still at eye level, that's fine. What I would argue is, based on the math that we're given by the circumference of the Earth, that doesn't add up. So there's two options here, and this would be my argument, because I would never argue, or at least not anymore. I wouldn't argue that the horizon at eye level is proof that the Earth is flat, because there is something that's also possible. And the other alternative would be that the globe model's numbers are dramatically wrong. Because if the Earth is 4 or 5 times larger than they tell us, then absolutely, you should be able to see the horizon near eye level, but still be nowhere near high enough to actually have to look down at it. But because they give us the dimensions, we see 1,500 feet of curvature from 50 miles away. In my last debate, I used the example of the Chicago skyline, and I had video of that I couldn't show before. But we have video of the Chicago skyline miraging and not miraging. And you made a claim on the debate that I watched with another guy you had, that we only see the Chicago skyline, in like perfect conditions. And that's just not accurate. I live here, an hour away. My brother-in-law just went to the Indiana Dunes with his girlfriend a week ago. And I just randomly asked him, could you see Chicago from there? And he's like, yeah, we see it all the time. So it is actually a very common occurrence to see our skyline from the Indiana Dunes, which is 60 miles away, excuse me.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say, I don't know exactly how often, but the conditions have to be right. The point is, if you can't see it every day, leaving aside cloud getting in the way, because, if it's a clear day and you can't see it some days, but you can other, that shows it's an atmospheric effect. But can you get your basketball back up and just hold your finger above it like you did?
Yes, and I just want to say one thing real quick before you say that, because even though what you said is valid, it is possible. It is also possible that we see it sometimes and other times we don't, because the plane that we're on is flat and the atmospheric conditions create a level of opacity that the sunlight can't get through. Both can be possible, but go ahead.
Right. Well, what I was going to say with that, do it again so you were just looking really close, right? Yes. So you're looking right across that horizon, aren't you? And then you held your finger just above it. Yeah? Yeah, but it was off the surface. Yeah?
Right here?
And that is way, way higher than the weather balloon. That's higher than the International Space Station. But if you're looking at that finger up there and then look at the horizon, you're moving your eyes down. It's below eye level, only a tiny bit. Remember, your eyeballs swivel. They look down. If you're looking towards that horizon, your eyes are going to adjust. Can you tell if you're looking 2 degrees down or whatever it is? I can't. Yeah, nope. If you're looking down at your feet so you can physically feel yourself looking down, that's one thing. But if you're looking and then dropping slightly, you're not really going to notice it. The only way is with sensitive equipment. And it'd be difficult to do on that weather balloon because, of course, it's swinging, so it's hard to tell.
Sure. Yeah. And I would agree with that. The argument I would say is, again, we have to do these observations, or at least, these hypotheticals to scale. So yeah, this is not very far off the surface in retrospect, but this is also not to scale either. So we're going to kind of bring this, I would say this is an 8-inch basketball. It's a small ball. It's a practice ball for dribbling. If we say this 8-inch basketball is the Earth, then, we have to try to decipher, well, what does this actually, how far is this actually? In the video you made with the basketball and the tack, your observation height was actually above the tack. You had an elevation or an angle of the camera looking like this, but our observations are of the objects at this, right? The Black Swan, for instance, the camera was only a foot off the ground. So we're not at a position where we're looking down at things, because I would absolutely agree. You could see both models could explain what we're seeing. But when we're looking at sea level, right, a foot, 2 feet off the ground, and we're seeing out for 40, 50, 60 miles. Sears Tower is only 1,500 feet tall, and it should be hidden by 1,500 feet of curvature at the Indiana Dunes, but the entire building is visible. That's what we're saying.
I think it's about every 69 miles we get 1 degree of curvature. So if those towers were 69 miles away, the light only has to be bent by 1 degree. 1 degree out of 360 in order to see it. And actually, if you don't mind, what I'll do is I'll bring up that video with the tack.
Go ahead.
Is that okay? All right.
Absolutely.
I'll run it without sound, and I'll talk you through it if that's okay. Just so you know exactly what it is I was trying to do, and then feel free to challenge it. Hopefully that's the right. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong video. I've got the right window, wrong video. 1 second. That was this one.
Take your time, don't worry.
Thank you. Right. So I'll pause it there. So what oh, no, I won't. Let me take it back. Okay. So what we got is the tack. It's not the height of the tack I'm interested in. It's just to show, if you look at the base of that tack, it's sort of in line with the geometric horizon, yes?
Yeah, I'll play.
Yeah. Okay. And what there is, if you look at the top right-hand video, you can see a different view of it. So you can see the tack and it's a bit hard to see, but there's a purpley blue area. I think we swing around and look at it. There we go. You see, you've got, what happened there? Oh, adverts now. Sorry about that.
No worries. I'm telling you, man, YouTube sneaks on you. Once you get in there, they don't let you out.
Or is this it's a different video? What happened there?
I think it switched over.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hit that arrow there instead of fast forward, and it goes to the next video. That might be what happened.
Right. So I'm swinging the camera. Can you see in the small image in the top left? You've got the tack, and then you can see a bluish line, pinkish line just beyond it. You can't see that bluish pinkish line in the main image. Okay. That was really the whole point of this. So that is beyond the horizon. None of those colors other than the yellow can you see in the main image. So I keep both cameras running the whole time. I skip it forward, and then I bring down a lens in between the camera and the main tack, if you like. Should be here we go. And as I bring that down, you can see the tack, you can see the horizon, and then if I can pause at the right point, there. You can see right across that edge there, you can see something that was hidden behind the curve. So that was all my experiment was to show that refraction can bring something into view that was hidden beyond the curve. Yes, it's horrendously out of scale, but it shows that can be done. Sure. And the atmosphere itself is or can act as a refracting lens. Everything we see is refracted. Even at a few feet, it's such a minuscule amount, you're not going to notice it. And can you see actually beyond that tack, can you see that little white bit?
Yep, on the window.
Yeah, that's right. It's at the bottom of the window. If I go back to the beginning of the film, just about there, see the white bit in the top right corner? It's on that another tack on the window frame. It's totally hidden behind this earth. It's way, way beyond. But you're right, scale is important. And what I do want to just pick up on was something you did say quite a while ago with my towing tanks evidence, with the curve in the rails to allow for the curvature of the water. And you were saying about perhaps you can remind us what you were saying about the scale of it.
Well, it's very similar to your experiment there. And I remember the guy that you were debating with, and he was saying almost like, hey, use, in the example of the black swan, if I get the numbers right, the first platform, the refractive index took the geometric horizon 0.1 miles further than it actually was. So refraction added 0.1 of a mile to where the geometric horizon should have been. And obviously in the black swan picture, we're seeing the horizon at 10 miles. And so the guy that you were talking with was saying, hey, show me this horizon and the tack at 1 mile, and then show me the horizon of the ball 10 miles behind it, right? And putting that
yes,
to
I
scale.
remember.
And
Okay.
in your video here, the reason why I feel like it's not only is it not to scale, but it's a misrepresentation is because, like I was saying earlier, your camera is above the image. So it doesn't really matter the height of the tack. What we're saying is do the exact same experiment, and you can even keep your measurements the same, but bring that camera to where you're seeing the bottom of the tack, right? Because when we're doing these observations over water, we're looking at boats and platforms and things like that. Sometimes you can't see the bottom because the waves and everything kind of gets in the way. So at least being eye level or at close to sea level, maybe 6 feet observation height, which would be basically eye level, being there and doing the exact same observation would at least give you a more accurate representation of what you could do.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
I was going to say in that video, I think you mentioned that it really wouldn't be worth doing because it can't be done. And that's basically what we're arguing is that the fact that we see the horizon behind so much further than what the geometric horizon demands it be is proof that the horizon is only apparent and not geometric.
Right. What I say with regard to scale, as I said, that tack was not meant to represent the oil rigs, certainly not to scale. It was a reference point.
Sure.
I tried to place the camera so that the base of that tack coincided with the visible horizon. Now, each of those, someone had raised some points similar to that before, and I did some sort of back of a cigarette packet calculations. Those dimples on the balls, on the ball, each one is would be the equivalent of a couple hundred miles or more. They're vast, and yet I brought forward from the base of that, from beyond the base of that tack, past it, and then brought that purpley area up. So yes, it's not to scale, but I brought vastly more into view than would be on the Earth with the atmosphere, and that would be needed in order to satisfy the black swan. But the reason I was wanting to talk to you about the scale of the towing tanks, I can tell you exactly what scale that towing tank's on in regard to the Earth.
Okay.
1-to-1. It's part of it. It's a pool of water on the Earth. It is reacting to the gravitational pull of the Earth. It is curving at the same rate as leave aside waves on the ocean, but it's curving at the same rate to the ocean would. And what that's saying is over 138 meter length, the height of that curve is just over half of 1 millimeter. That's the amount of curve. So if Earth was totally water and no waves, and you took 138 meter length of it, that's the amount of curve you get. 0.6 mil height, if you like. I don't like using the word height, but the hump in the middle. It's to scale because it is part of you. No, okay, that's fine. I appreciate you acknowledging that. I know that what you're saying. At face value, you think, well, it's only a small tank, so it's not the same as yet, but it's part of it, so that's fine. Cool.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Now we've kind of is everybody finished with back and forth time rounds? I was thinking we should get a tiny bit of house cleaning done on the both channels, a few super chats out and whatnot, and get into a more informal back and forth.
Sure.
Yeah, it's good for me as well.
All right. Well, Mr. Sensible, why don't you start us off? The floor is yours.
Oh, whoa. I've got to find my super chats now. I've got so many windows open. Right. Here we go. Let me just, unfortunately, I can't pick them up through OBS. OBS doesn't like me with regards to chat. So read that one. Okay. I had someone called Royal Kenny super chatted 20 Swedish krona, which unfortunately is not enough for a sex dance, so he'll have to do without that. aRe, or JR, is best looking. Sad part is the stupid. Mr. General E. Shady, super chatted $2. Thank you, General. Jay has zero clue. Not educated, has no evidence.
Okay.
Ariane Soldust super chatted 50 Danish kroner again. I've never heard of this JR guy before. he comes up with ridiculous arguments. Please debate David Weiss or Eric Debay. Well, what I will say is Jay has been willing to step forward and chat about this, and it's been totally polite, hasn't it, Jay? No issues between us. I have no problem talking with Jay. If David Weiss or Eric Debay wants to have a debate, I'll have a crack at that. I'm open.
And to be fair, I would love it if you debated David Weiss, because what I love about David over anybody, myself especially, and I'm trying to get there, but everything he talks about, he's got a green screen right behind him. He can show you on the spot thousands and thousands and thousands of observations. And I think this argument really deserves for people to actually be shown what we're talking about, as opposed to just kind of talking about it. So that doesn't even offend me at all. David Weiss is that guy. I think 100% that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, what I would say about David, though, is I responded to a video of his, called him out on something, and then he just ignored it. But no, I'd be open to it. And I'd talk to him perfectly politely. I have no problem with that. And I've got another one from Generally Shady for $2 Australian, saying face palm, face desk, sigh. And I'm just going to do a refresh because I think a couple more have come in, and then I'll let perhaps you do any from your side.
Sure. Yeah. Got a few over here as well, but I'll let you finish up for sure.
Oh, Mr. Bjorn Kamitz. Hello, Bjorn. Super chatted 100 Swedish krona. Cheers for the moderator. So there you go, Dick. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And Reg Liptic super chatted 50 Swedish krona. I've got lots of are these all Swedish blondes? I hope they're all tasty Swedish blondes who are throwing in money at me. Reg Liptic, 50 Swedish krona, saying if Mage is showing the rim of the disc, if that weather satellite is showing the weather balloon, is showing the rim of the disc, why is it all illuminated when half the Earth is in darkness? I think perhaps you may like to respond to that, Jay. Yeah, because Mage was turning around. It didn't seem nighttime. It's in effect, if what you're saying is the case, it would have shown a perfect circle all the way around. So why was none of it night?
Well, this might sound silly, but if Antarctica is a bunch of snow, that would explain why it looks illuminated. What I would say on top of that, actually, I just kind of lost my train of thought. He asked why it looks illuminated. What else did he ask? He asked something else.
Well, basically, it rotated, and you could see that horizon, which I was saying was curved, and you said is possibly the edge of the disc. No matter which way it rotated, because you could see it rotating all the way around, there was no nighttime.
Half night.
Yeah. There's none of that. It was all daylight.
I don't know if you know this or not, and I didn't know this, but the Earth is not always half light, half darkness. We go through periods of more light and less darkness, which is not even possible on a spherical surface, because a sphere can only reflect light at exactly half the sphere, no matter where you shine the light on the sphere. So that would be my response to that. There actually is evidence that that we have more and less time of daylight and sunlight than is led on to believe.
Well, I would say obviously we do have changing amounts of daylight and nighttime throughout the year, the seasons, but I couldn't see any nighttime. I think the time I launched that was sort of roughly midday, something like that, but it was daylight all the way round. You're right. Of course, a sphere would only ever be. Sorry, when did I film it? I think it's about last October, November, something like that. September, October, something like that. But it was late summer, and it was late morning that we launched, and we recovered it sort of early to mid-afternoon.
Okay, so in times of daylight, you saw nothing but daylight? Is that what you're
nothing but daylight as far as we could see, because in our model, and according to the radio stations that picked us up, line of sight was roughly 400 miles. So we would, on the globe model, we would expect that all to be daylight, unless we were sort of towards the evening. If the sun you can only see that distance, you can't see to the edge of a big flat plane.
And if the sun were not local, as in our opinion, it appears to be, then certainly that's possible. But if the sun is local, then you would also expect to see daylight in the times of where you are in your location, where it's daylight. So that doesn't surprise me.
Yes, you would. Yeah, but I think the point was that you had raised the thought that what we were seeing as the horizon was the edge of a flat circular disc. In which case, if you could see all the way around the flat circular disc as you rotated, some of it should have been in night. And also, since I'm not at the North Pole, looking in one direction, it should look closer than another. And I'll just read one more out, Dick, if I may, and then I'll pass over to you. I had another one from Nimrod for 55 Swedish krona. Mr. S, you know I'm a beautiful Swedish blonde. I can't believe you said that, Nimrod. I'll hand over to you, Dick. Thank you.
Real quick,
Okay,
Dick, before you read your super chat, I do want to respond to that because what I just mentioned falls perfectly in line. If we're saying that the outside is illuminated and you took this observation in October, that would mean you took the observation during or close to the south summertime, if I'm not mistaken. And if we are getting more light through that outer rim, right, more light, not less light, then that would make sense why we could see the outside looking or appearing to be illuminated. It's possible that it could all be getting daylight. That doesn't mean that it's always getting sunlight.
Well, I could respond and just say, but I could accept what you're saying as a potential argument, except the fact that we couldn't see any nighttime in any direction. But perhaps we better move on because I'll get a couple more super chats, and Dick hasn't had a chance to read out any from his channel yet.
Yeah, so we got a couple here from Generally Shady. Jay has zero clue. That's from Mr. Sensibles. I see. So, my list is a nightmare. I'm going to do it after because I didn't realize I had to filter through. I had no idea. I used a different. We used a different room in the Discord for it.
But can't you pick them up? Can't you pick them up from your YouTube studio?
Yeah, I'll have to flip over to do that.
Okay. Well, if you're think of doing that, I could read out the last couple. I think that just popped in.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Let me just go to it. Right, ZP, super chat $5 US saying, "Hi, Mr. Sensible, how you been? Why are you listening to a guy who can't even wear his hat properly? Hey, my man, your hat is backwards." No, his hat's the right way round. His head's on the wrong way.
Yeah, it's my head that's backwards. Get it together, man.
Flox MFPV, a new name. Thank you, Flox. Super chat €5 saying, "You could use Fusion 360 to show the scale of things." I guess, is that some sort of graphics package? I've not heard of it.
LumaFusion, I think, is what it's referring to, and it's I want to say it's similar to another Adobe program where you can put things to scale. So yeah.
Okay. So you got your chats up yet, Dick?
No, we have somebody in the background that's a member of the channel going into YouTube Studio right now because every time I refresh, I get nothing. There's something weird going on my system. So, and I don't want to push it too far because I'm running OBS and stuff. So we're just going to leave well enough alone.
Okay, so you'll get that at some point.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, you also mentioned about the fact that we've only dug about eight miles deep. I think is that the Koha something super hole, something super bore. That's right. I mean that's true, but we don't need to actually physically dig to the center of the Earth to know the makeup of the center of the Earth. In fact, leaving aside the equipment failing, we'd be getting down eventually through the crust, through to magma and whatever. We just couldn't do anything with that. But we can tell just using S waves and P waves from earthquakes. We can see as they echo around the Earth, we can see how they're shaded and actually refracted by the different inner layers of the Earth, the core and the outer core and so on.
So let's pull up. I'm going to pull up a diagram here. And I don't even really need to share it. I just need to see the numbers.
All right.
But they tell us that the Earth's inner core is 1,300 kilometers. I don't know how many miles that is. I'm in the U.S., so we use the metric system. But
that's fine. We'll go with 13. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but let's take that as a figure. Okay.
Yeah. So structure of the Earth here. I could show you if I needed to share it. I could, but you can just. I'm just looking at a diagram from Google. I typed in Earth's core diagram, and that's what I found. So if the Earth's inner core is at 1,300 kilometers, but the furthest we've ever gone is 8 miles. Let's see here. Kilometers and miles. So 1,300 kilometers and miles is 807 miles. So 8 divided by 807. So we've gone 0.009% of the way through Earth, and we're inferring what the core of the Earth looks like.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'll go with the percentage. I mean,
Yeah.
you might be, I've just assumed that.
So
that's
to
okay.
me, and again, this is why a lot of the argument, this is why flat Earth really is so popular and why it's not going anywhere, is because a lot of what we're saying is just rooted in the observational. If we can't observe it, we're not going to infer it.
But
right?
we can
So if
observe it. We can observe it.
You can infer it.
No,
but
we
you can't
observe it. We measure. You think we tell where aircraft are using radar? We can map the bed of the ocean using sonar. We're not seeing it with our eyes with visual light. We're taking reflections and so on. We're measuring the sound or the radio waves that are coming back to us. And in this case, we're timing when the tremors are felt at various points around the Earth. If you had one earthquake and then took a bunch of readings, you're not going to tell much, but it's a picture that's built up. The data builds up over time. You can tell that you know how far away an earthquake is. You can tell how long it took to get to you and how long it took to get to other places, and work out how it's the path of the S waves and P waves have been bent and refracted by the different densities of the different layers of the inner Earth. I was just trying to find a nice picture of it, but I can't right now.
But again, I would just say, in my opinion, I think that's just an inference, because if you're measuring these things, I don't really know how to explain it. If you're measuring these things, but you can't actually observe them physically, then it's not observed science. I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm just saying it might not be sound. So, for instance, we talk about go ahead.
Jay, are you a dad?
No.
Okay.
Don't wish that on me.
No, being a dad's all right. It's being married that's the problem. But
okay.
No, what I was going to say.
Amen.
What I was going to say was, you've obviously heard of ultrasound. Yeah. When they look at the infant still inside the mother, you can't physically see it, but we're taking measurements. We're inferring, if you like, that the child is there, and even whether it's a boy or a girl at times, sure. And taking measurements. What was astounding was they measured the skull and then said, well, how long has it been? Has it developed well enough? We could do all those measurements from the outside.
Now, let's take that a little further, because if we're talking apples to apples, I could touch a woman's belly and her back at the same time. Can you do that with Earth? No. So again, of course, if we're talking about a woman in an ultrasound in a room, right, in a closed environment where the woman's right here, I could hug her if I wanted to. That's not the same thing as comparing what's happening through Earth's surface of, if the radius is 4,000 miles, then that, it's twice the distance.
Well, the point I was making
was not apples to apples.
Well, the point I was making was not the scale, but the fact that you can use technical equipment to take measurements without physically seeing what you're measuring.
100%. And I would for 1 second, I would never disagree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
But the only thing I add to that, though, is, again, unless you can demonstrably show the observation, then what you're showing beyond what you can observe is in some way an inference. Whether it's accurate or not, you're still inferring it.
You're inferring it from the data that you gathered,
sure.
and the theory, so the theory of what's inside the Earth matches up. Now, if you said, right, at 12 o'clock tomorrow, there's going to be an earthquake in wherever, you could probably make a damn good prediction when the tremors would be felt at various points. And just because the distance is twice as far does not mean it will take twice as long. It may take longer than that, because the path the tremors are going, the waves are going, is bent and refracted. It's just another medium, like how light is bent and refracted here in our atmosphere. Can I ask you,
Yes.
because I don't know your position, so I'm not assuming anything.
Sure.
Do you think first of all we have an atmospheric gradient coming from 14.7 pounds per square inch, roughly at ground level, dropping down as you go higher and higher?
100%.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so if you've got that and it's going lower and lower, and on my Mage project it went down to 0.03% of atmospheric pressure, why would you not think that there's space, or do you think there's space?
No, I do not think there's space at all.
Okay.
Part of what I was gonna show, and we could show the video if we'd like. You made a claim about no evidence of stars being in water, and we have amateur video of stars, including what we call planets, and they look exactly what light looks like when reflected through water. So
if you're talking about those sort of P1000 images of them sort of moving and twinkling and that's just lack of focus.
you could call it lack of focus, but when you
well, I tell you what, you could stand on a bridge on a freeway and film cars at a distance and get exactly the same effect, but you know that those tail lights aren't actually doing that, but they'll show like that through your Nikon P1000, well, with any camera if you don't have it focused properly.
And the reason they will show like that is because the atmosphere has water in it. So when you're looking at these stars,
but the freeway doesn't. Looking across from a bridge along the freeway to cars right on the distance.
The air does. The air does. So if I'm looking at headlights of a car, between the headlights and observer, there's air, and air is full of water.
So why doesn't the moon twinkle then?
You would be begging the question by assuming that the moon is similar to light, which you guys didn't believe that.
This is interesting.
You believe
expand on that?
You believe the moon is a solid.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't expect that just off pure observation alone. I would say that the moon, whatever it is, which we don't know because it exists outside of how far we can go, whatever the moon is, it is obviously different than a star. It's different than the sun. It behaves differently than these other bodies that we observe. And so the fact that it doesn't twinkle, 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 little star, not twinkle, twinkle, little moon, that makes sense.
Well, I'm showing lunar libration. It's obviously, I mean, would you or would you not accept that it's a three-dimensional object, that it is a sphere?
No. And the reason I wouldn't accept that is because spheres don't uniformly reflect light.
Oh, you're talking about having, I forgot what it's called, a specular highlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or not even having a specular highlight, but just having a fully illuminated, like a full moon. A full moon would be impossible if the moon was a sphere.
Well, why? If you look at what I'm showing now, there we go, and full moon, and now it's waning. You can see it. In fact, we see more than 50% of that sphere. We see about 53% because of that movement of it.
So let's break this down, because in what you're saying here, you're saying, hey, look at the moon. It's fully lit. Therefore, the moon is a sphere. That's if P then Q. That doesn't work that way. What we're saying is, if the moon is a sphere, it cannot uniformly reflect light. If it's a disk, I think the moon is a flat disk. I think the sun might be a flat disk. They might just be balls of energy themselves. But at least, because we know we've never seen another side of the moon, we can confidently say that it's at least, a disk. Even if it is spherical, we could say at least part of that sphericity would be the disk on one side. If that's the case, then yeah, it could uniformly reflect light because it's not a sphere.
Well, you can see as the nighttime, the Terminator travels around that moon. It's going. It's a curved line. It's not a straight line. You can see round the curve a bit as it rocks and rolls during the monthly cycle, and as you follow through. The portion of the moon that's just about to be lit or just about going towards night, you can see the mountains, you can see their shadows lengthening. So it's certainly not a source of light, otherwise you wouldn't have shadows on it.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Because you're also inferring how the moon behaves. the ancients believed that the moon was an old battery that charges and recharges.
Yeah, well,
So you can't just go ahead.
So you mentioned earlier on the Flat Earth Society website. I know they're a bunch of real nutters, and you said about the other people might not know, universal gravitational acceleration or whatever, the idea that the Earth is flat but rocketing up at 1g, which gives you the 1g gravitational effect, but of course we'd be beyond the speed of light in no time. They also put forward a theory at one point, so you may or may not be aware of it, that the phases of the moon are caused by creatures living on the moon called moon shrimp that glow in the dark, and that is then migrating across the moon. So yeah, I don't think even many flat earthers hold much store in what the Flat Earth Society says.
No way. No way.
Not mocking you because of that. But
no worries.
No, if the moon is a light source, how can you have a shadow on an object which is producing light?
One second, Jay. 1 second. I need a quick Riley break, and I don't have an empty glass. So you guys play nice. I'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm listening on the speakers. Play nice.
Oh dear.
You got it, Dad. You got it. I would say that first, I think what we need to do is maybe take a step back and say, hey, maybe we just don't know everything. What we're saying, and what I personally believe, I don't believe we know what the moon is, right? I could say the moon is cheese, and there's no one that could prove me wrong, because at certain point, the only way to really do it is just to go there. Now, obviously, we both agree, we have the debate, did we go to the moon or did we not, right? I don't think we did. You probably think we did. So, there's a debate to be had there. But just playing devil's advocate here, I would say if the moon is its own light, right, then the waning and waxing doesn't necessarily have to come from a shadow. It doesn't have to be something producing it. It could be its own light source that is having a reaction to the sun. Remember, the moon takes 28 days to go around, the sun takes 1 day. And so it could be the sun's effects on the moon. If we live in a giant, I think they call it, what is it, a voltaic cell, a battery? If we live in a giant battery, the sun's a positive charge, the moon's a negative charge, it's easily possible that the sun's effect has that opposite effect or inverse effect on the moon. It's similar to what I was saying with McToon. What we notice in terms of experiencing effects, what we notice about the moon is that it has different effects of the sun, right? After the moon's been out, the grass can be wet, right? It'll do different things to meat. You leave meat out in moonlight, it'll petrify. You leave moon out. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. No. You might not want to hear it, but it's the same thing. So all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, we can't sit here and definitively say the moon is this doing this, because we don't know.
Well, we've been there. I don't know if I'm going to just try and screen share something with you, if I may, Jay. I don't know.
And while you're doing it, I want to bring this up, because I know you're about to bring up some we've been to the moon stuff, and I just want to. This is where I feel like if more people respected the psychology of the argument, we might actually be able to get a little further along, because I will never divorce human emotion and human response. So for instance, I run a studio. That's what I do when I'm not, flat earthing. I have a studio out here about 40 minutes from where I am. If someone made me swear on the Bible that I've recorded a song before, and they're like, hey, I'll give you $100 if you just swear on the Bible you recorded a song. Whether I was a Christian, Hindu, Muslim, doesn't matter. Put my hand on the Bible, I recorded a song, give me my money, right? The fact that Michael Collins, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin refused to even put their hand on a Bible and say that they went there, and Buzz, from a video a couple years ago, admitted to an 8-year-old girl that they'd never been to the moon. It's a 17-minute video, and I just watched it again. And he's stumbling through the entire video because he doesn't want to lie to a little girl. You don't want to put your hand on the Bible, especially if these guys believe, like the government that they worked for believe, that there was a firmament. And I will show you there are CIA documents from the 60s acknowledging the existence of the firmament. If they've seen it, if they've experienced it, or if they've been told that that's the case, right? I wouldn't put my hand on the Bible and swear that I went to the moon.
Well, do you know what, Jay? If I had been to the moon, and you asked me to put my hand on the Bible and swear I'd been to the moon, I wouldn't do it because I'm not religious. Okay. But what you can see on screen now, little plaque, image of astronaut Buzz Aldrin taken by Apollo 11 commander Neil Armstrong, July 21st, 1969, Tranquility Base, Mare Tranquillitatis Luna, autographed by Buzz Aldrin. I is it going? It's a little, there we go. This is something I just bought recently, a signed photograph. And it's an original 1969 print. So it's not a modern reprint, an original print of Buzz Aldrin on the moon taken by Neil Armstrong. I've got that photo on my wall in this frame. So I can look at it extremely closely. Mm-hmm. It's a genuine photograph. There's no doubt about it.
I actually agree with you, and because the reason I agree with you is because it was taken in a studio. So of course it's a genuine photo of him on a powdered surface in a studio. In fact, from my little experience making videos, you have two conflicting shadow patterns right there.
No, you don't. No. Have you ever watched the Mythbusters? Because that's a common misconception. You've got like the shadow of his. Yeah, you got the shadow of his legs going one direction, other shadows apparently going another. Well, if they're humps and bumps, it does bend how shadows go. It really does. Excuse me. And with regard to them being on the moon, they didn't have a lunar rover on Apollo 11. That was on later flights. But if you've ever watched that, you could say, oh, well, perhaps they just slowed the film down. Okay, that would make them obviously go slower and appear to hang in the air a little bit. But if you have a look at the dust being thrown up from the wheels of the lunar rover, they're not being thrown up into dusty clouds. They're being thrown in perfect arcs, parabolas, all the time, because there is no atmosphere there to disperse them and make them go cloudy. Even the fine dusty stuff is going up, arc, down. You could not film that unless you filmed it in a studio that had no atmosphere, a vacuum.
So you couldn't film faking the moon unless you were in a environment of no atmosphere.
Well, with regard to the lunar rovers, no. But if you have a look at those, I mean, I have done a video about it, but it was a long time ago, so I couldn't dig it out quickly, unfortunately. But if you have a look at film of the lunar rover racing up and down, because there was one where they were almost playing or testing its limits, you can see the dust flung up from the wheels, and it comes up in an arc straight down. No clouds. You would not actually, even if you had it on Earth, just if you had some sort of fine sand, you're going to get really, really fine. You're going to get the dust fine sand, and you would get clouds. You think of cars racing across desert roads. You get the great big clouds. There's none of that. Absolutely zero.
I'm actually watching the lunar landing video right now.
I knew it. I knew it. I could hear it, Jay, and I was thinking, how am I hearing that? What's going on? Okay,
it's
thank
all
you.
in your mind.
Play along with me here, because again, the psychology to me is almost more fascinating than the science. If let me ask you this: let's say you and 20 of your friends all went to space. Would you expect all of you to have similar, not the same, because if you had the same story, you know, that's the argument against the gospel, right? These four guys all telling the same story. It can't be true. If you guys were all telling the same story, you wouldn't expect that. But if you guys had similar stories, overlapping information, you would expect that from you and 20 of your friends going to the same place, even if you didn't go there at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Just before I answer,
yes.
I know exactly where you're going. You are predictable. It's so predictable. Sure. My prediction is see stars. Some of them said you can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I'd expect people to have generally, but not identical stories, because if they had absolutely identical stories, you start to think, hold on, have they just been schooled? Have they learned to script? Yeah, but that's a biggie, because that would make me think. Let's say that you and I were going to set this up, we're going to trick everyone. We're going to tell them one of the things you'll agree we would sort of pretty much have agreed on before, and is, do we tell them we saw stars or do we tell them we don't? It's not just when we went in zero gravity, I had a floaty feeling, or I've had sick feeling, or whatever. You might feel floaty, I might feel sick, but we're pretty much likely, you would have thought, to notice or not notice the stars. It's going to depend on things like the lighting in the cabin, where there's reflection. I don't know what else, but I know exactly where you're going with it, obviously.
And to be fair, the reason I bring it up, and this is what I said in my opening. Yeah, you guys have heard a lot of the similar arguments, but it's because they're so good. Like, if it's no different than, asking me, have I ever been to Chicago? Like, it's ridiculous to even postulate, I'm not going to answer you because, like you said, I'm not going to swear in the Bible because I'm not religious. Okay, That's even more credence to do it because you don't care, right? It would actually make more sense to me. It would make more sense to me if someone who maybe became religious from an experience that they then had to lie about, I would be scared to death to put my hand on the Bible and lie about anything now, knowing what I know or believing what I believe about flat Earth. I would never do that.
Jay, what I'd say about that is you may, if there's something you think is true, you may be happy to swear on the Bible because it reinforces that you're telling the truth because you have that religious belief. I don't, but I'm still an honest person. So it would be dishonest of me to swear on the Bible. Now, I believe that in court, you can either swear on the Bible or take some other sort of oath. I'd take the other sort of oath. So I'm not averse to taking an oath, but I am averse to swearing on the Bible because I'm not religious. And so to me, there's no difference between the Bible, the Quran, or any other religious text.
I agree with that. And that's why I would say, and that's why I argue that it would make more sense for you to do it because you're not even thinking about it. You don't care. That book means nothing to you. The Bible to you is the same thing as Curious George. So if I handed you Curious George and I said, swear on Curious George that you went to the moon or that you're drinking that beer right now or whatever you're drinking, it's nothing to you to say, this is what I'm doing right now. Thirsty Ferret, amazing.
Thirsty Ferret, yeah.
An amazing name. But yeah, so it's nothing for you to say, yeah, I'm drinking Thirsty Ferret right now. And again, this is all, it's semantics. It's you're arguing, the psychological aspects of things. So I'm not arguing that it's evidence per se, but you have to understand that the physical, empirical things that we can observe and study on top of these other things. This is why flat Earth is one of the highest trending topics, and it doesn't go away, and it won't go away.
Well, I think you need to check the Google stats on that. But I won't go into all religion because I know that religion is deeply held belief by many people, and I have no wish to insult anyone. But what I say is, to me, all religion is, I don't wish to be rude, but to me, it's just nonsense.
Sure.
But so I don't want to insult people. I don't want to. You've got freedom of religion. You can be a Christian, a Hindu, a Muslim, whatever, and that's fine. But I've also got freedom from religion. I'm not forced to go to church. I'm not forced to take part in religious ceremonies, and I don't want to be forced to swear on something that to me is not, it isn't anything. I think perhaps we better leave that because, like I said, I don't really want to get in religion. Perhaps we could do that some other time. Dick, I don't know if you've got some super chats, but I've got a bunch more, so I don't know if I can catch up with these again. Okay, Gary Little.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, Gary Little super chatted $5 US. On a flat Earth, the Earth shadow I see on a clear night would be concave. Every time I see the Earth shadow, it is convex. Why is that?
Every time I see the Earth's shadow, where are you seeing the Earth's shadow?
Sometimes just at sunset or just beyond sunset, you can see the shadow of the Earth just above the horizon, opposite direction to where the sun's gone down. Have a look at some pictures for that.
Yeah,
the sun's explained to who's seen it.
The sun's really far away in those moments. It's really that simple. Like, I've got video here, and I'd love to show some too. We have video of the sun fading out, not disappearing over the horizon, literally fading out, being unable to be seen, but still being above the horizon. This is not possible in your model. Every time the sun goes away, it's the Earth rolling back away from it every single time. So anytime that we can find a black swan, or we can find an observation that goes against what we should uniformly see based on your model, that's evidence to us. And so if I see a sun that fades out and is above the horizon, I'll show you another video, and I can do this right now. I'll show you another video of the sun setting over the horizon that's above the actual horizon. So the sun is being blocked by a horizon that's above the horizon we're viewing. So to me, like, it doesn't even make sense to really ask that question. You're again, in my opinion, you're inferring based on what you've been taught and what you believe, this is what's happening. And that makes sense. If you've been taught a model, then everything that you observe and view will automatically conform, or you'll try to conform it to that model. It makes perfect sense why you're doing it, but it doesn't make it valid just because you have that observation. It doesn't mean that what you're observing, the consequent or the effect has to be Earth curve.
Okay, so I mean, I could address that in a while, but you've responded to Gary's super chat. Thank you. Judy Bassett super chatted €7. aRe, or it's JR is very polite, and I certainly agree with you, Judy.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah. And Bjorn Kamit super chatted again, 100 Swedish krona. Mr. Sensible and all, how disturbing it even is that people deny reality and believe only what makes them feel good about themselves. It's good to see you doing well. Well, thank you, Bjorn. I appreciate that. I don't know how Jay feels about that comment. Oh,
I do want to respond to that because there's something about this, and I have to say this, and this is why I've enjoyed talking Flat Earth versus Globe Earth with you, Mr. Sensible.
Good.
More than anybody outside of like my personal friend group, because what I see a lot from other guys, I won't mention their names, you know who they are. What I see from other guys is this level of arrogance, as if every flat earther is an idiot. Every flat earther didn't graduate past the 6th grade. And people have to understand, I'm coming out like to the world, like I'm out of the flat earth closet here. I'm telling the entire world I'm a flat earther. There's nothing to be gained by that. So the fact that hundreds of thousands of millions of people are doing it, we're not doing it to be cool. That doesn't make any sense. In fact, since I've told people I'm a flat earther, I've lost friendships. People literally don't talk to me anymore because they think that I'm a flat earther. So apparently the fact that I have an investment license, I know nothing about money because I'm a flat earther. That's the type of logic that we have to deal with on an everyday basis. And it doesn't make any sense. I think if we just can humble ourselves a little bit just to have the conversation, you don't have to believe it, but you know, it takes a mark of education to be able to entertain an idea and not accept it. And a lot of these guys on these debate platforms, they can't even get past the entertainment stage because they're so fixed on what they believe that everything else is hogwash. And it just creates an appeal to authority and a level of arrogance that it just turns me off. So, you know, when I'm on here, I'm on Dick's channel here. He's a good guy. He's not inferring what he believes, even though he thinks I'm crazy too. You know, like it's totally fine because at the end of the day, we're all humans. Just respect our humanity and that'll be it. But just don't assume that people are saying this to be cool. Because if I wanted to be cool, I wouldn't talk about flat Earth. It doesn't make any sense. It's not the topic to gain cool points with people. That's the topic you bring up when you want people to stop talking to you.
Okay, well, listen, I certainly appreciate the compliment, Joe. I really do.
Absolutely.
And the last two I've got currently, I know more have come in. I'll just read these last two current ones and hand to you, Dick. Poison Toad, super chatted $50 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Poison. Congrats on the 10K, Mr. S. Thank you very much. Just hit 10,000 subscribers. But appreciate that. And appreciate any of the new subscribers who are joining us tonight. And Genuine Shady, $2 Australian. You're not going to like this one, Jay. Jay, from derp to utter bullcrap. You're delusional.
Cool story, my guy.
Well, perhaps a bit of hand over to you, Dick, because you haven't got through any of the chats on your side, have you?
Sure. Yeah, so we've got one from Second Best Bob, Great British Pounds. $5 or £5. Thanks for this, guys. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. Thank you very much. And I do want to switch right into a question mode there from Randolph Richardson in the chat. We have a question for Jay. What is the effect of light on light? More light that makes things like a moon brighter, or shadows that make the moon darker?
What is the effect of light on light?
Mm-hmm.
More light? I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with not knowing.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's my favorite.
No, I don't know everything. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, and sorry, we do have 1 second question for Jay from Randolph Richardson. So I think, perfect timing there because it just came in. Well done, Randolph. If space aliens took you for a ride on their flying saucer and showed you that the Earth is a spherical shape, would you abandon your view of a flat Earth?
No. And the reason why is actually the reason the most common question. This is the biggest hurdle people have in flat Earth is why would they lie? The purpose of them lying, in my opinion, is the upcoming alien deception. So no, being taken in a saucer and being flown into space and being shown other things would be exactly what I would expect from a deceiver. We've been saying this from day one, that the entire globe model is a setup. It's a stage being created for what's coming next. And this is why I actually keep talking about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't care. But I believe that, Project Bluebeam, if whoever asked that question, go look up Project Bluebeam. They've been projecting things in the sky to make us think that they're artificial intelligence or UFOs. They've been doing it for decades now, I believe. So the technology's been out. It's still out. It wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I'm calling it. I'm telling you that that's going to happen. There's going to be an event that comes where people think that, maybe it's a rapture because all the Christians are expecting the rapture, which is not biblical at all. But some event that causes people to disappear and go away, and they're going to blame it on aliens. I'm calling it. So when we refer to this back, 2-3 years later, you guys will be like, damn. So it is what it is.
Well, I'll tell you right now, this stream will never be hidden on our channel because I'm keeping it up for just that alone. And I have one last super chat to read out, and then we're all house cleaned over here. And it's our very own Sarcastic Barman, £5 and he says, "Read me 2 points rotation, angles to stars that don't work on a flat Earth. That is all." So thanks, Barman.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll switch it back to you guys. Whoever wants to lead us off on a little more back and forth. We're not pushing time yet. We do have a Shills pub chat, which is also a sort of / after show we'll be doing. We'll get a few of the viewers in and we can just hang out. That'll be in about 35 minutes. So we got quite a bit of time here. Where you guys go?
Well, I've got 2 more chats to read, but one's ending with a question for you, Jay. It is a question.
Sure.
But the first one, Christma and the Dirt Squirrels, $2 US, says, "The Bible makes for good spare toilet paper." Okay. Second best Bob, super chat at £5, says, "Ask Jay if he thinks chemtrails are real and COVID is fake." But before you answer that, Jay, you have been asked, so feel free to answer or not, but I'm not going into a discussion about chemtrails and COVID, all right? But do feel free to answer how you feel about them.
Do I think chemtrails are real? Yeah. I live here in Chicago. We all the time get stuff sprayed in the sky that's clearly not water from planes. Can I verify it? No. Here's what I could tell you. The government has been modifying weather for decades. So to say that it's not possible would be idiotic. But do I know for sure? No. Do I believe it? Yeah. And, on top of that, with COVID, it's a similar story. Do I believe that COVID exists? Yeah. Do I believe it jumped from a bat to a human? No. That's crazy. So in all of these things, there's always going to be half truths. You can't get away with a lie by telling a complete lie. You got to give it a little bit of truth rooted inside of it. So certainly, there's things that we don't know or that we are told that aren't the case. I'll give you a perfect example. Ronald Reagan went on record numerous times and told us that marijuana was the most destructive drug known to man. To this day, weed has killed no one. So just think about that. It's the same source telling you the shape of the earth and all these other things, and it's hogwash. It's garbage.
I don't know what Ronald Reagan did or didn't know about the shape of the earth. But one thing you said earlier, responding to one of the super chats on Dick, that Dick read out, actually had me a little worried.
Okay.
Yeah. The question about it that someone asked about if aliens took you up. Let's rephrase that. Let's say somehow I've built a rocket and I took you up and we orbited the Earth from far enough or high enough distance that you could see it as we went around all the way around. We crossed Antarctica. You can see it's a little globby continent near the south, well, around the South Pole, and then we land. Would you then change your mind about flat Earth?
100%.
Oh, good. Okay.
I'll add to that.
I thought you were going to just say no matter what, I'll deny the evidence. So if you would accept the evidence, if it was good enough for you,
that wouldn't make me an honest man if I denied the evidence, right? So
that's cool.
You show me the evidence, fantastic. What I would say to that is, actually, I lost my train of thought, so go ahead and skip it. But there's something I wanted to bring up about that. I'll find it.
Well, I was just the point I was trying to make was: is there a point, whatever that point is, that there's enough evidence that you'll say, do you know what? I was wrong, and it is a sphere.
Thank you. There's one thing that could be done, and it should have been done on accident thousands of times, and that's NASA or any space agency breaking the fourth wall. You know what the fourth wall is, I assume, right?
Well, with regard to sort of stage work, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but there has never been a single produced footage from any space agency breaking the fourth wall. You will never see what's happening back here. The Tesla video of the Tesla going into space, all of our moon missions, all of our satellite data, you never see a video, even them working on the ISS from outside of the ISS, working on it in space. You will never see that camera make a 360 pan, and that's a fact. So if I saw that, I wouldn't need to go to space. If someone could just show me perspective of where you are by doing a 360 with the camera, unedited, game over.
Well, I've seen video with a space shuttle. I'm pretty sure it was going 360 degrees or certainly a lot around the ISS. So, they sort of came under and went over and whatever, doing some docking maneuver or whatever.
I would just encourage you to, if you can find it, I would love to see it, first off. But secondly, watch it and see if they truly go 360 and see if you can spot an edit. Because from everything that I've seen, there is no 360 movement, and any of the ones that I don't even think I've seen a video claiming to do a 360, to be honest with you. So
what about
I'd love to see it.
What about the filming inside the ISS? I'm not just talking about an interview where so many astronauts are apparently upside down and so on, but when they do one of the tours, and it's not just a short chat, they actually lead you through the various tunnels and locks through to the various sections, all in one long continuous shot. How do you think they would do something like that? Because you could imagine if it was just a static interview that they could be on a harness, but when they're passing through these locks, there's just no way you could do it so they're on harnesses or anything.
So those specific videos where you say they might be going basically like from room to room kind of, I can't comment on too many of those because I've only seen videos kind of in an isolated room, so to speak. Now, they're making movements in and out of the room. There's people coming in the room and going out. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. There's so many videos online of these guys faking that stuff. I mean, them doing flips in their harnesses. Every single time they're doing a video from the ISS, they're wearing bulgy pants with their shirts tucked in every single time. There's a video of a guy trying to pass a hat to another guy on the ISS, and the guy acts like he grabs the hat and puts it on the shelf, except the hat is still in the other guy's hand. So we've seen time and time again of them basically superimposing augmented reality over our actual reality. And from my perspective, it's no different than like, dating a girl. Like if you lie to me once, I don't trust you ever again. So the fact that we can see these lies taking place on the ISS, I mean, let me throw this back to you, and then you can take the floor, Mr. Sensible. Can you think of a logical explanation why we don't have a single piece of footage of the ISS being built?
I've actually used it. I'll tell you what, I will come back to it because Jolene said in my chat that it took like 8.9 seconds to find a 360-degree video of a spacewalk. So it could be worth having a look for that. Sorry, what was it you asked me? Have I done what?
What did I just ask you? I asked you. What did I just ask you? 360 spacewalk. The 360 spacewalk just threw me off. I forgot what I just asked.
Yeah, my apologies.
No, it's totally fine because I want to see it, so it's all right. I honestly can't remember what I just asked you. I'm sorry.
Perhaps someone can remind us in the chat. Do you remember, Dick?
Yeah. No, sorry, I'm lost too. I was just thinking, and my train of thought was quickly lost as well, unfortunately. Darn it.
Oh, ISS, thank you, Martin H. ISS building footage. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the greatest thing known to man since the pyramids, and we don't have a single footage of it being built.
Yes, we do.
Where?
Okay. Right. Let me. Well, in one of my back catalogue videos, ReneeNme, I think, did a video of a transit of the ISS across the moon, where it passed in front of the moon. So he had used a website which predicted exactly when, where it could be seen. He went there, set up with his camera, and he had an accurate clock, so he knew when it would be. He said it should be passing now, let it go a couple of seconds, and he captured it, a beautiful image. But he said, and it looked just like the ISS with the solar array and so on. And he said, but of course this isn't real. There's no real thing. We don't know if anything's up there. So I actually dug out a number of transit photos of the ISS transiting either the sun or the moon at various stages in different configurations, because they sort of bolt a couple bits, put a couple of panels on, then when another section's coming they'll rearrange it and bolt, so it changed shape over the years. And you can look at photos of the ISS taken from the Earth over numerous years, and you can see it as it grows.
And you're saying because you've seen it pass over the moon in different configurations, this is evidence of that, correct?
Well, it's evidence that it wasn't always the same. Therefore, it's it's constructed. It's grown bigger and bigger, and it matches up with when they say, we're launching module so and so, or we're putting on new solar arrays. And lo and behold, once they've done that at the next transit, if someone's captured a photo of it, it's got the new arrays. And there's even transit photos, I believe, showing a space shuttle docked to it. If not transit photos, telescope photos taken with telescopes from the Earth, and you can actually see a space shuttle approaching and then being docked to the ISS.
So this is kind of twofold, because the first assumption that happens a lot is I think the assumption is that the ISS isn't a thing. Therefore, it shouldn't show up on satellite imagery or satellite radar at all. And I don't think that's the argument. I know it's not the argument I'm making. I know it's not the argument guys like Jaron make. We're not debating whether there's something in the sky that can be tracked with your phone. What we're saying is it's not in outer space. When I say there's no picture of it, there's no video of it being built, you're telling me that you can see the effect of it being built by these additions that you see in the sky. That is not the same as, I'm talking about even like the initial module. No one's seen it being built. We're told it's up there, and now we can track it with the satellite. But that's not showing me that it's being built. You're inferring that it's been added to or modified because you see video of them doing it in space, or you see the new modifications when it passes through. But I just want to take a little bit step back from that, and I just want to ask you. And I don't want to be condescending, so I'm just going to ask you.
No, yeah, that's fine. I won't be upset.
Do you know those eyesight charts where they got the lines?
Yes. With the letters on, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How far down, how many lines down do you think your eyesight could read?
Not too good nowadays. But a few years back, I had laser surgery, and I had I think it's called 2012 vision. Certainly, way better than 2020 vision. I had very good eyesight.
Sure.
Now it's not so good.
So, maybe 6-7 lines down. Like I don't know anybody who can read the last line. That's crazy. You have to be like a child or something. I don't know. But anyway, what I'm saying is, a lot of times we say things like, "Oh, I can see the ISS in space." Well, the ISS is like the size of a football field. It's large, and you're trying to tell me that you can see and render what's happening in the sky from hundreds of thousands of feet or miles potentially away. Like, to me, that alone sounds ridiculous. You can't tell me what's happening in the sky. You have a phone that is tracking this device that you've been told is the ISS. You're watching this device or this object travel in a certain trajectory, and you're superimposing what you've been told about it to make it true. But you can't look at the sky and tell me that without your little satellite that you can render, the ISS from United Airlines. That's crazy to me.
Right. Well, that photo you can see on screen is a photo of the ISS, and at a glance, it looks fairly similar sort of configuration to nowadays. It looks like a letter H. Here's one from a different time. It's a totally different shape.
Sure.
So it's changed over the years. And I actually also have a video somewhere in my back catalogue. I had a prediction website which was saying when the ISS was going to pass over, and it would pass. It was going to travel from my perspective, nearly vertical from close by the horizon between the moon and Venus. So I had a very, very easy and definite location. And I pointed out where it was going to be. I filmed that. Then half an hour later or whatever, I went back out and I filmed it going there with my iPhone. I don't use an iPhone. I don't touch Apple, with my Android phone. So, you said about the size of it. Well, it's about the size of a football field or whatever, but it's against a very black background, and it's reflecting an awful light. It's a very reflective surface, glass and metal, so it's reflecting an awful lot of light. And you think, those signaling mirrors the military use, where you flash a mirror just to signal someone. Yeah, it's only a handheld little mirror, but it's a bright reflection that you can see from a long distance away in daylight. And this is a huge thing against the black of space.
Sure. And that observation alone, it's the same thing with lighthouses. That observation alone is, again, kind of proof of our model that we can see too far. So yeah, the fact that you could have a handheld mirror and you can project that reflection, maybe 100 miles away, I don't know. We would expect that on a flat surface where there's no obstructive curvature in between the two of us.
Yeah, I would think a couple of miles you'd be able to see a reflected light, just like when you're driving along and you occasionally get a glint from reflected off of someone's car windscreen or something.
Sure. Yeah. So all I'm saying at the end of the day is, looking up in the sky, one, it doesn't tell you anything about the shape of the floor you're standing on, but two, it to me it's almost. And I apologize if this sounds disrespectful, but it is, to me, it sounds like almost a level of arrogance in a way to say, hey, what I'm seeing is definitely this because it's so far away. I mean, like, you've flown in a plane before. When you get 20,000 feet in the air, everything is this. But you're telling me the ISS is, I don't know, 4 or 5 times further away than the cruising altitude of an airplane? I couldn't tell you what airline it was if I was looking at a plane flying in the sky.
No, of course not. And it's about, I think, 120 miles up or whatever.
I want to say it's 120, yeah.
But by eye, all you can see. Actually, that's the first point. Have you ever seen what is claimed to be the ISS pass overhead?
I have seen. So I'm not going to say I've seen the ISS. What I've seen is, obviously you see the projectile in the sky. The satellite is telling you the ISS is there. Now, when my friends zoomed,
so you have seen what is claimed to be the ISS.
But in to continue with that, and there's footage of this online as well. When it was zoomed in on, it looks like a holographic image. It's like green and red. It looks like a hologram. It does not look like a physical metal structure flying over my head.
Well, but all I'd expect to see is like a very, very, very bright star with no flashing lights like you get on an aircraft, moving at an absolutely steady speed. It's not slowing up or speeding up at all, and going in a dead straight line because it's not turning. And if you've ever seen a satellite, they're much the same, but not as bright. Obviously, the magnitude varies depending on the angles, but you get it at the one of the maximum magnitude passes of the ISS. It's stunning. It's so bright. There's no mistake. When someone points it out, I don't expect people to perhaps notice it. They'd probably just think it was a plane or something if they just caught it at a glance. Mm-hmm. But when someone points out, look, the ISS is there, it's nothing like a plane.
Sure.
And also,
go
it has Red's rhetoric calculated with his friend, is it Astronomy Live? They calculated because they viewed the ISS as it passed in front of the moon from two different locations, worked out the angles, and that gave them the height of the ISS at approximately 120 odd miles. Basically, within a margin of error, it was the height it's supposed to be, and the speed. And the speed it's traveling, 17,500 miles an hour or whatever it is, you certainly couldn't travel through water. You couldn't even travel through air at that distance. You would just turn to plasma. You would literally burn up.
That's assuming that the projectile is where they're telling us it is. And this is why I said...
calculated it, just simple trigonometry.
Well, sure. And I'll give you that. I don't have the numbers. I'm not going to argue it. But the easiest way to prove it once and for all, like I said, is just break that fourth wall. Just show us what's behind you. You know, in the Tesla video, you got the car spinning just like this, right? And what a lot of people don't notice in that video is there's no rear view mirror in the car. And I expected, even before I pressed play, I told my fiance, I said, I bet you will not see the rear view mirror of this car in the shot. And it's because they cannot show you what's behind. They will not do it. And it's because they're faking it, in my opinion. If I was faking that I was in my sunroom right now, or if somebody thought I was faking it, all I would do is turn this camera around 360 degrees in one complete circle, and I would prove that I'm where I'm at. That's not hard to do. And like what I'm saying is, with 10,000 satellites supposedly in space, that should have happened on accident. So the fact that we're asking for it after all these years and the footage it doesn't exist, it's begging the question.
Well, someone did say that there is some 360 spacewalk stuff. I've not seen that, but
there's
interesting. Yeah, go.
Yeah, there is a 360 VR of a Russian spacewalk that was posted in our chat earlier by somebody.
And again, this is common sense. Is virtual reality actual reality? No. So is it going to count in terms of this argument? No. It's augmented. That's my argument. It's augmented reality.
Yeah, well, I think the VR in it meant that you could pan it yourself or something. I'm not really sure. But,
you can. Basically, like when you move, and I'm watching it right now. When you move your camera, it basically like moves with you. So it's like you're getting a POV almost of space. And again, like that's computer graphics. Like that's a simulation from an app or a computer. You know, it's not a genuine video of you showing me a 360 pan. And I think we all can agree with that. So at the end of the day, you show us 360 view from space, from anywhere, from the ISS, from anywhere, right? You know, show Orion doing a 360 as it travels to Mars and back. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But the fact that it's been 50, 60 years of space travel and we don't have that, I mean, come on.
Well, I was just looking up about Tesla. Apparently, they've got Tesla Roadsters have no side view mirrors. They've got cameras.
No, rear view mirror.
I know you said rear view, but I'm not finding anything about it either way.
Just watch the video. It's still online. If you watch,
I did have a look at one, but it's a news report, and to be honest, it's such a short clip. It's hard It is hard to see.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
We
that's to me, that's just, I don't want to call it a smoking gun, but it's pretty close. I mean, come on.
we on the after show, we could show the Apollo 17 panoramic they did. They did a 360. Anyway, I'm looking at the time here, Mr. Sensible. It's 47 after the hour. I'm thinking we should clean up any super chats and give ourselves like a 5-minute breather and then go into the after show and whatnot.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. So if I just have a double check, see if I've got any more chats that come in. I haven't been keeping an eye. I think I'm actually up to date. I'll just refresh. Yeah, I'm up to date. I'm up to date. Thanks. So any at your end, Dick?
Okay, yeah, we've got a couple. One from Woden Toad, $5. Jay, conspiracies flatter your ego and make you think you're the smartest in the room. You aren't. Learn trig and calculus and let yourself be wrong. And then we have one more from Sarcastic Barman for £5 British. If lighthouses show flat Earth as nothing in the way, why can't you see the bottom of building in the distance? You turnip. I got to read them how they come.
Can I respond to either of those?
Yeah, please.
So everything disappears from the bottom up due to perspective. We can demonstrate this on a flat table, how things will disappear from the bottom up. It's not impressive for objects to disappear from the bottom up. The other argument about allowing yourself to be wrong, think about what you're saying. I'm arguing against the model I was taught since I was 5. What are you saying? Like, I'm 31, 27 of my 31 years I've been a globe earther. I'm allowing myself to be wrong by putting myself in public light, arguing against the majority of the population. So that doesn't even make sense to make that argument. That's silly.
Well, okay. We do have one last one in from Ox, $2 American, I do believe. It could be Canadian, same damn symbol. This is for a new bucket for Jay. Sensible shot holes in the old one.
Sorry. Well, I'll say thank you for the compliment.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's funny. So at this point, let's have, you each can do a wrap up. Shill, anything you got coming up? Thoughts on the debate itself? Everybody gets a few minutes. So let's go with Jay first here. Thoughts and wrap ups, shilling out the Instagram podcast, anything you want here.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, I just want to thank you guys because this was awesome. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago, and I could not think of a better way to spend it than here in my sunroom, talking with some good dudes. So first and foremost, appreciate that. Appreciate all you Globetrotters out there talking your smack. It's been fun. It's cool. I expect the ad homs all day, every day. So, I appreciate you following through and doing exactly what I expected you to do. At the end of the day, Yeshua is king. I hope that everybody gets a chance to experience truth in whatever way they can find it. I believe that no matter who you are, what your background, where you grew up, we all will have an opportunity to decide for ourselves what is true and what's not. And that's the beauty of free will. And that's really the entire premise of the gospel, is an exercise of free will. Sensible, you brought something up about being anti-religious. It's ironic because I'm a follower of Yeshua and I'm also equally anti-religious. I hate the church with a passion. So I think at the end of the day, it's really come down to what can you verify, what can you answer, and what can you prove for yourself. The word tells us test all things, question all things. So it's never been whether you're religious or scientific or both or neither. This world is far from settled. The science is far from settled. Keep asking questions. Keep seeking truth. Keep striving to be great. That's my message to everybody. That's what I challenge myself to do, and I'll challenge anybody else to do the same.
Good words. Excellent. And Mr. Sensible, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you. Well, once again, I'd like to say thanks to you, Dick, for moderating and taking care of all the techie stuff. I know that it was quite a hassle tonight to get it sorted. But big thanks, Jay. I really enjoyed it too. I hope I didn't ad hom you at all. I certainly, if I didn't intend to, okay? and yeah, we disagree, but that's okay. It's okay to disagree. I respect that you said that with whatever the right evidence is for you, there is a point where something could make you change your mind. That's great. It's if someone that's why I said I was worried, because if someone says no, nothing will make me change my mind, that's where it's wrong. Because I'm open. If a flat earther could give me good enough evidence, I would change my position. Actually, in the same with religious beliefs too. So far, it's a big fat no to both of them. But I respect you for agreeing to come on here and letting us have this chat and us thrashing out these thoughts and ideas. And I would just ask people to always try and look at the evidence with an open mind, and that can be hard when you see something that challenges your beliefs. Here's a little challenge for you, Jay, okay, on the religious side, okay? You're in a restaurant and you start choking on a piece of food, and you can't breathe, and you're gasping, you're really gasping your last breath, and I come over and say, can I help? Would you be happy if I just said, as a stranger, I'll pray for you? Or would you like me to do the Heimlich maneuver?
Well, I love that, because that is why I hate religion. Stop talking, start doing. 100%.
Okay. But
Good
big
point.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. And thanks to all my members, patrons, subscribers and viewers. And big thanks to especially to the new tranche that come in after I did that video on Creaky. Welcome to you all. Thank you all.
All right. And for ourselves here on the Shills channel, I want to thank everybody for coming, participating in the chat and whatnot. We've got the link going out right now to our after show that will kick in about 10 minutes. We're hoping, a few of you might want to join. There'll be a couple of the Shills kick in. Jay, hoping you want to stick around for a bit. We can all have a nice casual chat. On that note, remember to leave a comment. Let us know what you thought of the debate. If you're new around here, subscriber button's there. You can hit that too. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Hey, it's your opinion. No big deal. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And on this note, let's say goodnight, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Stay sensible.
Stay sensible. I like it.
Be cool, fellow babies. We're out.